30s now, so
Will
nobody
everyone
gets.
please rise for the pledge?
Nice to meet you, Sarah.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is he getting me ready? I'm not online yet.
Mr. Supervisor,
Nope.
the town clerk is not yet online with the system.
I'm not online, so. You guys can go ahead, I'll catch up. Don't wait for me. I'll figure my life out.
Order of the pledge. Roll call, everybody's here. I need to make a couple changes.
Couple of changes to the agenda. Remove item number 9727, highway contract is not ready. Table that to the February 5th meeting.
Okay.
Like to add a discussion of resolutions for a recreation hire and a resolution for the terror contract. I present that as a motion, as amended. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is acceptance of minutes, December 18th and January 2nd. I'll present it as a motion to accept them. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
I was speaking with Mr. Gava about him not being here,
Uh-huh.
and it was my understanding that discussion of the ward system is going to be postponed.
We could table it when we get to it.
Okay, just do that.
Okay.
I think we've got some preparation to do on that before we discuss it.
I don't want to table it, we'll just talk for a second or two and just move on it. But I'm not going to do a resolution or anything.
Well, I think, okay, if you want to.
Yeah.
I would rather table it,
I'll just leave it on there and just go by it pretty quick.
okay?
Next up is a public hearing on local law to amend the town code regarding accessory apartments. I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Ryan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now's the opportunity for the public to speak about creating a local law to amend the town code regarding accessory apartments. What we're going to do is make it a little easier for the residents of Fishkill to have the capacity to make an apartment in their house or on their land so they can stay in the town of Fishkill. Anybody like to speak about that? There's a public hearing. Okay, come on, Ms. LaGoy.
I just wanted to say that I agreed to pass this to make it a little bit easier, and I appreciated the explanation that was given at the last meeting during discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaGoy. Anybody else like to speak about the public hearing? Any questions from the board members?
No, I think we went through all the little issues as far as square footage and et cetera, minimums and maximums, so I think it's all answered.
Thank you. Greg? Jackie?
Yeah, no questions, just mirror the councilman's comments, and so that this is an important step. We're talking about affordability and sustainability of residents in Fishkill, and this will be a good step towards that. And as we all know, people who are doing this, within their own property, they will be exempt from the good cause eviction law as well. So there won't be any additional regulatory, infringements on their ability to operate a little accessory rental property on their property. That'll be good.
Jackie, anything?
Yeah, I like the idea, how we always talk about affordability and trying to keep families together, and here in Fishkill, I think, an accessory building would be a great place to keep maybe, a new married couple or an elderly parent. Keep families together in something that is affordable. So for that reason, I really like this law.
All right. Anybody else out in the audience? Last call. Make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We have any new employees here today? Come on, Jason.
Just want to say hello, everyone, and greet you once again. I'm the new legislative aide for the town of Fishkill and the town board, and I really look forward to working with you all and making sure that the residents of this town have the best service that we can provide.
Any questions, guys?
Well, I understand, Jason, I've met with you, you're a very intelligent, engaging young man, and welcome aboard for legislative aid. But I think we all, and this is no criticism, all were a little surprised about the HR piece that was given to them. I think that I'm a little concerned with our employees knowing who to come to with confidential issues or any problems, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that there have been a few things that you've worked on and have come through for some people. There's no doubt about that. But I did express to you, that, I think, have we expressed to the town employees that they go to Jason for HR issues? Do they know? Where are we with that type of thing? And I just am concerned with a little bit of confusion right now.
Yeah, I'd like everybody to come to me first, and if it's something we can work out, I'll send it to him as we train him to get the job done. We're going to be cross-training him in payroll, water bills, et cetera. We're going to assign quite a few tasks to this position.
Understood. How do you feel right now, Jason, about doing the HR piece?
I would consider more of a personnel than HR.
Well,
Paperwork.
right, because we eliminated that position.
I'm always willing to help, no matter, what issues are brought up.
Okay. Do we have a backup for him in case he is coming across something that he is not able to handle due to skill set?
That would be me, or if it's something important, Julie Shaw, the labor attorney.
Okay. All right. I just would love a little bit more clarification. So, again, not putting you on the spot, just it's a good time to uncover that a little bit more. You appreciate that, right?
Absolutely.
No, no problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason. Anybody, any other employee? New employee? All right, thank you. Next up is privilege of the floor for general town items. This is the town opportunity, your opportunity to speak about anything regarding the town of Fishkill.
Louise Danielle, rural town resident of over 30 years. In reviewing our agenda packet, there continues to be a lack of transparency on numerous issues because there's no correlating documentation for discussions such as talking about the school zone, number 1, number 5, discussion of creating a ward system, number 9, discussion of objecting to congestion pricing in New York City. On our agenda, I see another hire for a police assistant. You hired one last meeting as well. Where are these postings? They are not on the town website. That just says error when you click on it. Kenny and I tried our best to create a fair hiring process, including posting and interviews for qualified candidates. We tried to stop hiring from the, quote, folder of friends and family members, like sisters of employees and prior co-workers and board members, and instead put it out to the public as it should. I'm sure you will say the candidate that you're hiring tonight for the police assistant was a cadet and is well qualified. That's not my point. My point is the continued lack of proper process for hiring in our town needs to stop. I see the resignation of another police officer on the agenda. I would like to know if an exit interview is done. They should be done for every employee to make sure that there are no issues that cause the person to leave and that the board should be aware of. I do not believe that happens either. So when you're given the opportunity to be employed by our town or at some point you decide to leave, there should be a policy in place that follows a process for both. And that's not happening. I would like to speak first about discussion number 8, which is a discussion of resolution to impose a room occupancy tax on hotel and motel occupancies and short-term rentals in the town of Fishkill. This resolution does not actually impose the tax. The resolution states that it gives the supervisor the authority to complete and submit to the New York State Senate Legislature for a home rule request to create a room occupancy tax. So my first question is, why are we asking for the request when the topic has not yet been openly researched, discussed, and broken down for the public to understand the specifics on what it would entail and come and give their views on it? If the New York State Legislature created the home rule, are we bound to then move forward with the room occupancy tax? If so, I think it should be tabled and actually discussed first with the community input before asking for the home rule request. I would also like to ask why. Why is this necessary to have a room occupancy tax? Why do our elected officials feel that we need to create a new tax?
Are you kidding? Did they not hear any of it?
I got a text that they couldn't.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right, that's what we pay for. So now I'm going to begin again because people at home didn't hear, which is unfortunate that wasn't turned on, like it should be.
and I'll speak quickly to try and get to where I was. In reviewing our agenda packet, there continues to be a lack of transparency on numerous issues because there's no correlating documents for discussions, such as talking about the school zone, creating a ward system, discussion of objecting to congestion pricing in New York City. On our agenda, I see the hiring of a police assistant. You hired one last meeting as well. Where are these postings? They are not on the town website. That just says error when you click on it. Kenny and I have tried our best to create a fair hiring process, including posting and interviews for qualified candidates. We tried to stop hirings from the, quote, folder of friends and family members, which seems to still be happening, sisters of employees and prior co-workers of board members, and instead putting it out there to the public as it should be. I'm sure you will say this candidate was a cadet and is well qualified. That's not my point. My point is the continued lack of proper process for hiring in our town needs to stop. I see the resignation of another police officer on the agenda. I would like to know if an exit interview was done. They should be done with every employee to make sure there are no issues that caused the person to leave that the board should be aware of. I do not believe that happened either. So when you're given the opportunity to be employed for our town and at some point you decide to leave, there should be a policy in place that follows a process for both. And it's not happening when it should. I would like to first speak about number 8, discussion of resolution to impose a room occupancy tax on hotel and motel occupancies and short-term rentals in the town of Fishkill. This resolution does not actually impose the tax. The resolution states it gives the supervisor the authority to complete and submit to the New York State Senate legislature for a home rule request to create a room occupancy tax. So my first question is, why are we asking for that request when the topic has not yet been openly researched, discussed, and broken down for the public to understand the specifics on what it would entail and come and give their views on it? If the New York State legislature created the home rule request, are we bound then to move forward with this room occupancy tax? If so, I think it should be tabled and actually discussed first with the community input before asking for the home rule request. I would also like to know why. Why is it necessary to have a room occupancy tax? Why do our elected officials feel that we need to create a new tax? If our town is in good financial situation, why would we put such a burden on our local business owners, local hotel owners and managers by creating a new tax, which will cause them a large inconvenience to keep track of all that will be required, including registering the business, tallying and documenting quarterly reports, rents, prices, and paying a certain percentage? I have not seen anything in writing, but I've heard it's potentially 5%. Not even a thought of a flat rate instead of a percent. This would create more work for someone employed by the town to oversee this tax, which means creating another employee position, which costs the town money, salary, benefits, and retirements. And please, don't just give a stipend to someone who already has a job to complete and take away from their duties to add this large oversight position. What happens if the hotels don't document properly or they don't pay on time? Our employee has to document and most likely calculate fines, and what if our local business owners don't pay on time? Will there be penalties and interest on overdue payments? We will then have to potentially take them to court and spend money on lawyers, and they would have to spend money on lawyers. What else? Could it be levied to their taxes as we do with unpaid water bills? I have heard from some that they think it's okay to create this tax because it's the people who travel through our town and stay at the hotels who will pay it. So that makes it okay? They are the ones who will be burdened with the additional hotel tax, in addition to the Dutchess County room tax, which was just raised 1% at the end of last year to 5%. So it will now be double. The taxes that they will pay, in addition to the potential 5% more that will be the town. In a time when we're trying to encourage people to visit and stay in our town, making it more expensive is not a good way to do it. What does the government do? Our federal, state, county, and now local government, what do they do when they want free money? They tax people. What's next? A road tax on State Route 9D? A tax to breathe Fishkill air? It's ironic to me that you are objecting to congestion pricing in New York City in a resolution before the resolution creating a room occupancy tax. You object to the governor using those funds to cover MTA costs due to their lack of fiscal responsibility, yet you yourself are doing the same thing, creating a tax instead of being more fiscally responsible. If you vote against congestion pricing, you should be voting against occupancy taxes as well. Stop spending unnecessarily, and you won't have to implement these unnecessary taxes and burden our local business owners and hardworking people who stay in our hotels, eat at our restaurants and diners, buy gas in our gas stations, and shop locally. This does not support our local business owners and the hardworking people who stay there. How can any board member represent our town at the Chamber of Commerce or Tourism and think that that's okay? It's not. And where will the money go? I've seen a few towns that enacted town occupancy taxes. Some put it into the general fund, as the town of Poughkeepsie does. I am very concerned that if that is what happens here, we cannot trust our elected officials to spend that money wisely. As we have seen, they put a town-owned house up for sale on a ballot, but fail to be transparent and tell the public $100,000 of that taxpayer money from the sale of the house would be spent on yet another expensive, unnecessary $100,000 statue. If the public knew that, I'm not sure the sale of the house on the ballot would have been passed. If you plan on using the money to give yourself either even further unnecessary raises without any policy of fairness of who gets it, I do not think this should move forward. I did some research on it since there was none on the agenda. The city of Ithaca, which is much larger than our town, has a hotel and motel tax, and they have a specific fund that the money is put into for the construction and operation of a conference center. So I think if this actually passes in our town, it should be not for general use, it should be for a specific use. You can read about Ithaca's law as a reference for cityofithaca.gov. So stop spending unnecessarily, and you won't need to implement unnecessary taxes. Stop government overreach. This leads me lastly on the topic to the wording. You have on the resolution on hotel and motel occupancies and short-term rentals. We don't have short-term rental rules in our town. So you need to cross off the short-term rental wording in the resolution and do your homework. And in our zoning code, which allows someone to rent a room to not more than 2 people in a room who are not members of the resident's family. Basically, you can rent one room to someone if you actually own and live in that house. You should review it with our zoning enforcement officer, Joel, if you need clarity. On to number 8, there is no supporting documentation regarding the creating of a ward system, other than hearing the supervisor say in the past he wants one and he wants to put it on the ballot. A ward system is a bad idea, and we should not waste money. That would be money that would be spent on the Board of Elections costs and other for new locations. You can read a study opinion on the ward system at townofbethlehem.org. Since there was no supporting documentation, I had to find it myself. I researched it and found it, and I'm thinking to myself, what is the point? You will reduce your pool of candidates who will want to run for office. With 932 towns in the state and only 15 use the ward system, so there must be a reason why it is not a good idea. You would also have more people on the board with a ward system, and you have to pay those extra council members in the system, in the ward system. It also limits the public accessibility to their politicians. You only have one representative to go to, when now you can choose which elected official you feel comfortable with when you have an issue. I'm sure the supervisor will say he wants to add it for a resolution and a vote to our upcoming election ballot, or perhaps a special election. I hope if he does that, and the motion will fail, and a different board member could make a motion to close the discussion, and get a second from another board member, and then a third with a logical thought to end this discussion once and for all, as it is unnecessary to create a ward system in our town. Lastly, not on the agenda, I have said it in the past and I will say it again. All of you are responsible for managing and overseeing the financial aspects of our town. You are the bag holders. If something goes wrong, it comes back on you, each of you. So I would like to know why you are still not receiving monthly reports from the comptroller, as we did in the past for us to review, including bank accounts, payments, and all things financial. I have yet to see on the agenda any money transfers, and there have been many changes since the budget was approved, from the small ones of $500 spay and neuter program, to the PBA and highway contracts, to the hiring of a legislative aide, and not correcting the asks of the highway superintendent when his budget was presented. Also, was anything encumbered? I remember seeing a few years ago that money was set aside for a basketball hoop that the rec center ordered and had not yet received. So are there any encumberments now? Is everything being done properly regarding our town's finances? If you are not watching, then no one is. It's the board's responsibility to make sure all of our bills are paid, and paid on time, not late. So please do your job and protect our money. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Ann McGoy, I'm here. I have two parts, actually. One thing that I'm here as a representative of Stray Help, and I have several people with me as well. Stray Help, entering our 10th year as a charitable organization, federally recognized, begins another year of high-quality, low-cost spay-neuter clinics in Fishkill. We are delighted to accept the spay-neuter certificates made available to Fishkill residents through a contract between the town and the Animal Rights Alliance, Inc., known as TARA. We thank Mr. Gaba, who's not here, but thank him, for working on the updated contract and hope it is ready for February. Although the certificates were not available for our January clinic, which is tomorrow, Stray Help is stepping in to honor the price directly, so there is no interruption of services to residents. I now want to take a moment specifically to thank Councilman Foreman, whose response to my request for help and efforts thereafter helped secure significant additional funding from the county for Stray Help's Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Return program, and that of other humane trappers in Dutchess County who will be able to seek services also through Hudson Valley Animal Rescue and Sanctuary. And I have some of the Fishkill residents here who participate with Trap, Neuter, Return, and they're here to thank you as well. Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Return is our primary program and focuses on helping free-roaming community cats within Dutchess County and the people who care for them, called colony caretakers. The simple medical procedure of spay or neuter has a significant positive impact on the health of the cat and any cats it comes in contact with. Spay-neuter drastically reduces the number of cats born, aggression, fighting among cats, and reproductive cancers, all of which directly impact the financial cost and emotional strain of caring for cats. Additionally, we see every day the positive impact TNVR has on the surrounding community who witness the struggle of these cats. Our grant writing efforts often include answering the question, what is the overall impact you anticipate having if you receive funds? The additional funding that you secured will serve 66 cats, and as incredible as that is, the higher impact is that there will be literally hundreds of cats not born into a life of suffering because these additional 66 cats will be spayed, neutered, and provided basic healthcare services, and that's just in the first year. They will not produce kittens who themselves would produce more kittens, and on and on. They will not get hit by cars, freeze to death, get shot, poisoned, fall to illness. These tragic outcomes are often heartbreakingly witnessed firsthand by their human caretakers. Serving 66 additional cats brings Stray Help and our community that much closer to achieving a tipping point in curbing the exponential growth of the feral cat population. I thank you, and we thank you for your assistance. But I don't want you to worry. I will still give you honest feedback regarding town business.
Sounds
Thank
good to me. Way to go, John.
Well done.
Can we get a picture? We
After
have a
the
few
meeting.
people.
Paula, you got people here?
We got some people.
Got some people.
Ladies, come on up.
I'll take it.
Come on, John. Let's get
John.
cat sweaters going in front.
No cats. That is very dangerous.
Sure, Greg, watch your feet, watch your feet.
Kim?
That's what I said, get them.
Further over so we get the seal. Scooch a little over so we get the seal in the background. Very nice. Everyone smile and happy. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll do my second part after I take my straight off. So
Hello.
Good evening. I'm Malene Rockamp. I'm the president and CEO of Duchess Tourism, here to talk about the occupancy tax. Dutchess County is a leisure destination. We don't rely on business travel. Business travel has places where people have to go. When you're a leisure destination, people have a choice on where they go. We want them to choose Dutchess County. But as we all know, we're talking about tightening our belts, increasing the occupancy tax, adding to the occupancy tax, doubling the occupancy tax is bad for visitors. It's bad for leisure travelers who will not choose Dutchess County or will choose to make a day trip maybe instead of an overnight visit. Overnight visitors spend 3 times as much in the community as day trippers. So what happens, and we get many calls in our office of people coming and looking at hotel rates, especially those busy fall weekends, and not finding any opportunities to stay or reasonably priced opportunities to stay. And so anything that makes that more expensive makes it difficult. So what we're seeing, and what you'll hear from some of my colleagues tonight from the hotels and other businesses that rely on visitors, is that we're down because they cannot afford to stay overnight already. And so they're making day trips instead of staying overnight, which means if they're doing that, they're probably not having breakfast here, they're not having dinner here, their spending is less. And so that's a big problem for all of us. Luxury travelers aren't going to care about 5%, but that's not the type of property that we have here in Fishkill. We don't have luxury properties here. So the people who are coming to stay at the Holiday Inn and the Best Western and the Hyatt House and extended stays and all the other properties are looking for something that's affordable. And by increasing tax on them, you're preventing them from coming here. And so we want to make sure they do come here, because what happens is visitor spending in Dutchess County, 17% of all spending at our restaurants comes from visitors. If you know anything about the restaurant industry, you know how thin their margins are. 17%. It's significant for us. 24% of all retail spending in the county comes from visitors. 40% of spending at our attractions comes from visitors. So when you limit their ability to come here to stay multiple days so they can do all the wonderful things here, is going to be detrimental to our economic vitality here. And so we want to make sure that we're welcoming them and that they can afford to stay here a week, not just one night. We want them here because they are what sustain us. We all learned during COVID that our restaurants and our favorite attractions had a very, very hard time staying viable on resident support alone. They need to have those visitors spending at their establishments in order to not only survive, but to thrive. So when you look at this, not only is this going to affect hotels, not only is it going to affect visitors, but there is a ripple effect. We talked about retail, we talked about restaurants, we talked about our attractions, but many of our tourist attractions are small businesses. They don't have services in-house. So there is a ripple effect to everything from landscapers to florists to lawyers to banking and finance to landscaping to HR and payroll. And if those visitors aren't coming and supporting those businesses, then they can't afford to hire and pay those subcontractors to do that work for them. It ripples way, way, way out beyond that hospitality that you think of is mattering here. So that's something for you to seriously consider as you're thinking about this occupancy tax. The other thing that I want to bring up that's incredibly important that I think many people don't think about is here in Dutchess County and here in Fishkill primarily, film productions. Film productions saved our hotels during the pandemic, and they continue to help make them viable at slower times of the year, midweek when we're not having those leisure travelers come. Almost 16,000 room nights last year were taken in Fishkill hotels by film productions. Fishkill is by far the greatest beneficiary of lodging from those productions in the whole Hudson Valley. So last year, from 2021 to now, the film production spend in direct spending that we can track, which means those are the people that are using the New York State film tax credits, spend $12 to $20 million of direct spending in our county. What's going to happen, those productions are tightening their belts. They're already on thin margins. You know, they're not big productions, so if they cannot stay here because of this additional cost to them, they will be gone. That money will disappear overnight. Laurent Rejo from the Hudson Valley Film Commission sent a letter to the supervisor explaining that to them and their standpoint. He couldn't be here tonight to share this, but it's really very, very important because not only will it impact them, they'll just go away. They'll go to Toronto, they'll go to Georgia, they'll go to Massachusetts, they'll go to New Jersey, they'll go everywhere else but here if those costs rise for them. So I just want you to consider that. Thank you.
Just give me a second.
Yes.
You said the county raised their tax by 1%?
Yes, sir.
From 1% to 5%,
From
correct?
4% to 1%.
Oh, by 1%, 4 to 5.
Correct,
I'm
that's
sorry.
correct, yes.
Was there a public opportunity for people to speak about that?
I'm not sure if there was. The intent of that that additional 1% was to go to the Housing Trust Fund. So workforce housing, and that would support certainly people who are working in the tourism and hospitality industry.
Did Dutchess Tourism oppose that 1% increase?
We did not.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Mr. Gilbert?
Hi, my name is Paul Gilbert, I'm a resident of Fishkill. I've also been a travel agent for 35 years, and I can pretty much assure you the taxes have nothing to do with whether you book a stay or not. It really doesn't. Now, I'm not here to argue whether or not we need the revenue. I'm arguing if you all have a choice. The choice is raising property taxes, maybe increasing the sales tax, mortgage tax, a use tax like on water. So the choices aren't good. My choice would be choose a tax that doesn't affect the people who actually live here and is paid by businesses. And for businesses, it's a write-off. So to me, to say that they're going to not do filming here because they're paying an extra $7 a night for a hotel stay, it strains credibility. It's not going to hurt Fishkill. And quite honestly, how many people actually come to Fishkill, for the scenery? They come here for the business. If you're talking about northern Dutchess County and areas like that, I can understand that. But they're coming to Fishkill, business to do business here. And, they have expenses and, so it'll cost them an extra 5%, which on a $150 bill is $7.50. I don't think that's going to hurt anybody. If there are any questions, you'd be more than happy to ask me.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Malvarosa?
Bob Malvarosa, 36-year-plus resident of Fishkill. Tonight I come here because I'm on the town planning board and I hear constantly about the gateway of Fishkill and everything else, but I'm like sick and tired of seeing the Dutchess small property. I know that it had something that was going to be there, but we have this ordinance now about cleaning up the property, and it looks like something from the South Bronx in the 70s. I mean, that's supposed to be the gateway, and it looks like a big pile of crap. I'm sorry to say it that way, and I just think that the owner should be made to clean up the property, especially to make it more appealing for stuff, I mean, so that was my big thing for tonight, was for that, because I've been thinking about it for the longest time. There's another property that's off of 82 where they were going to put back the storage again.
That's on here.
That looks horrible.
That's on the agenda tonight.
Okay, that looks horrible.
The issue with the Dutchess Small is the way the local law is set up. As long as it's boarded up, it can stay that way. All these windstorms, if it knocks down one of those walls, then we can move further on
you're going
that.
behind it, you're going around it, even the parking lot itself.
That we
there's
can- that
people
we can work
staying
on.
there dumping stuff.
Yes.
There's
We get dumped-
campers sometimes.
We get dumped, we clean it up all the time. There's somebody put some graffiti on there about 2-3 days ago. We can get that cleaned up.
Can I just say something? I actually made a call to the gentleman that manages that for the owners, because just this last week, because I'm rather disgusted with it too. And I've been here since, I guess, 99, and I don't know that, that's changed since 1999.
No.
So, and I hear it from a lot of different people as well, that they're rather exhausted with it, and it's justifiable. So the question was, I thought there was a warehouse coming in, I thought it was going to be nice and pretty, it was going to redo everything and finally be done, but those people backed out. Okay, so since they backed out, where is it now? And the word I got is that there is something in the works, and it's all about paperwork and coming to terms and da-da-da, and people want to make it. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more patient here and see what happens, but I'm on the same page with you. And I was not given details because evidently this is a top secret, whatever deal is going on for this property.
I
So-
was hoping that ShopRite would go back down there again, but.
Yeah,
you know,
so
as a
hopefully,
supercenter.
hopefully, I certainly will make a call in a few months and say, okay, where are we? But I agree with you 100%, and I did just recently call about it.
All right, and then I can't agree any more tax. It's just the nickel and dime and everything, and I just think that the hotel tax is not a good thing. Because I think, like they said, the people coming and spending, you're producing tax because you're getting on merchandise and local tax and everything else, so, yeah, that's not a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. Malbrosa. Ms. She already spoke, didn't she?
She did.
Dimitri?
How you doing, gentlemen? I'll just give you a couple little insights on the hotel occupancy tax. We have, during storms, during summer months, a lot of veterans that come to this area, that live in this area during storms. I think there's other colleagues here that are from hotels. They want to stay at a hotel just in case they lose power, this and that. Our retirees, they come and stay at hotels during snowstorms, just because if they lose power, there's somebody there to help them and this and that. That is a burden on them. You got to think outside the box. Think of the other, those type of things that it's going to hurt. During the summer, you have people that used to live in Fishkill, they come up to visit their grandchildren, this and that, so they are Fishkill residents. Were for 50 years, 60 years, we're just going to tax them. There's got to be other ways. We have to stop taxing. It's all this world has become. Fishkill's just following. Whoever's bringing this tax up, that's all you're doing. You're following. Tax, tax, tax. Let's find other solutions. That's what we're in business for. We find other solutions. We can't just keep raising. We have to lower. Year over year, I think our occupancy has been down. I think that was correct. I was told it was up. It is not up. It's down. So the more we just keep taxing, you're going to push them out. They'll find other ways. But I'm always looking at the elderly. I know during snowstorms, first calls we get when there's a state of emergency, the kids, they call, they say, can we get a room for our parents because just in case they lose power. So you are burdening the locals. It's not just a traveler. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Hold on a second, Ms. Littlewhite. Anybody that hasn't spoken, can speak.
So, good evening. My name is Judy D'Alessandro. I'm the Director of Sales at the Hyatt House in Fishkill for the last 18 years. I have a few concerns with the 5% increase. Number one is, why didn't we have a conversation with the hotels? Could you sit down with us and say, hey, this is our plan, tell us how you feel about it, will it impact? I sent Mr. Councilman Totino a text last night. He hasn't responded. John Foreman said he called me back. He didn't. He was police chasing, and that was a different story. I think that Councilman Rye is part of SAG-AFTRA, correct me if I'm wrong, but this will affect the business. For my hotel, I'm 50% leisure, 50% business. We don't work with travel agents. We do work with tour buses with elderly that visit us and want to see Dutchess County. And unfortunately, going from 12.25% to 18.25% will be detrimental to our business. We'll have to lower rates, which will be less money for everybody. So I just want you to know where I stand. a conversation would have been great. I'm disappointed.
Thank you, ma'am. People that have not spoke?
Hi, I'm Lisa Brady. I'm the general manager for the Marriott in Fishkill. And just kind of same kind of comments here. We will see that $7 a night does hurt us. There are a lot of hotels in Fishkill, as you know, and another one coming. So while we're all friendly with each other, we're also very competitive. Movie groups that come, they drive us down in rate and they pin us against each other to get the lowest rate. So $7 is a big difference. We have a lot of extended stay guests that stay with us, some that have fires in their homes, mold or water damage, and these are also local residents. That would add, if at a $159 rate with that additional tax, it's almost $300 a month. And if they're paying that out of their pocket, that can be quite costly. For a leisure guest, if you're staying for a wedding on the weekend at a $229 rate, that's an additional, for a weekend, almost $30. Again, these probably don't sound like a lot, but when you're a bride and groom and you're trying to get the best rate for your guest, again, they're going to pin us against each other, and we're going to fight with each other for that best rate. So I just think that needs to be considered. And the film is a big industry for us. And if we lose that, they go to New Jersey, they go to Massachusetts, it will be detrimental. Thank you.
Anybody else has not spoken? That has not spoken?
Good evening, Miguel Martinez, General Manager for the Best Western in Fishkill. What I want us to say is when we do get these big film crews, they do have a budget, right? Every business has a budget. Tax is part of what they're paying. So we have to look at it that way. We do house not only these big film crews, we do house people that are homeless, people that had a fire, people that had a flood, people in between homes. I get nurses. I just had a flight attendant right now as I was leaving. She was just kind of, driving by, and we're in an area where we're between, PA and Connecticut and 84, and people kind of just want to check us out. They want to look at the area, and I think this would be detrimental, and would probably, maybe make some of these people want to go somewhere else, honestly. And just in terms of a budget, it does make a difference. I just wanted to look at it that way. When you're spending a large amount of money housing a lot of people, they will find somewhere to make it fit. Or as was mentioned, we're just going to battle each other and drop rates, and it's it's still going to have a negative impact regardless. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. People that have not spoke? Ma'am?
Honorable members of the Town Board, thank you for allowing me to speak on an issue that directly impacts the backbone of our local economy, small, locally owned businesses. I am Paige Flory, co-owner of Boutique Wine, Spirits, and Ciders here in Fishkill, and a resident of this town and a certified tourism ambassador with Duchess Tourism. While I understand that taxes on hotels and short-term rentals may seem like an effective way to generate revenue for the town, I want to highlight some of the unintentional consequences that such policies might have on our community, and especially on small, locally owned businesses. First of all, increased operational costs harm small businesses. Small businesses in our town operate on razor-thin margins. I can tell you that. Particularly those providing lodging. Imposing an increasing tax forces these businesses to either absorb that cost, cutting into already tight profits, or pass the cost on to the customers. The larger hotel chains also are affected by this, but consider the small business owners and the smaller lodging companies that are out there who may not have the financial reserves or the economy of scale to offset that burden. Some of the supporting evidence I found was studies by organizations like the American Hotel and Lodging Association show that small independent accommodations face disproportionately high operating costs relative to their larger hotel chain counterparts. In similar small town case studies, hotel taxes resulted in closures of many family-run inns, leading to fewer lodging operations for tourists. Our town depends on innovation and fresh ideas, or I'd like to think that it does. However, high taxes on lodging discourages new entrepreneurs from entering the market, fearing that they won't be able to cover the costs. This limits diversity in accommodations available to visitors and stifles overall economic development. Data from AirDNA shows that small towns with higher short-term rental taxes, such as ours, saw a 25% decrease in new rental listings within the first year. According to a 2021 Small Business Administration report, small lodging operators typically saw lower profit margins, and we're talking 6 to 8%, compared to larger chains with only 10 to 15% in their profit margins, making everybody vulnerable to increased tax burdens that we're talking about here. When taxes increased the cost of lodging, tourists are more likely to choose other destinations that offer better value for their money. For small towns like Fishkill, this could mean fewer visitors, fewer dollars spent locally, and reduced economic vitality. A report from Tourism Economics found that for every 1% increase in lodging taxes, overnight stays decrease by approximately 2%. Neighboring towns or regions with lower taxes can easily draw tourists away, especially in areas where towns compete for weekend visitors, like, say, Beacon, for example. When taxes eat into small business profits, owners have less capacity to reinvest into their properties, market the town as a destination, or support local initiatives like events and festivals. And we do a lot of them at Boutique, and we depend on our neighbors that are the hotels to help us with that. This stagnates growth and weakens the town's ability to attract visitors. There's ripple effects that we talked about on the economy. The impact of lodging taxes extends far beyond accommodations. Fewer overnight visitors means less spending at local restaurants, shops, attractions, and such. In small towns like ours, these secondary impacts can be devastating. Boutique draws from the flourishing film and television industry. Seeing many production personnel higher costs for lodging will discourage the industry from staying in the area and filming, sending a negative ripple effect through the rest of the town, including retail like us, but also restaurants and other services like transportation and other local attractions. Where did I go? Often over long-term projects like the White House Plumbers and the whale production. We saw tons of people for the duration of those, which were months and months and months. According to destination analysts, overnight visitors spend 2 to 3 times more than day trippers, with a significant portion of that spending going to local businesses like mine. I also don't know if you guys consider this. High taxes can push some property owners to operate outside the law, offering unlicensed rentals that don't contribute to the tax base at all. This creates unfair competition for businesses that follow regulations and further undermines the local businesses. So I don't know if you guys took that into consideration, but I think that's something we ought to think about as well. A study from Urban Institute found that jurisdictions with high short-term rental taxes saw a 30% increase in unregistered properties. So I have some suggestions. Instead of increasing taxes on accommodation, I encourage the board to consider alternative approaches, generating revenue without placing an undue burden on the local businesses or our corporate hotels that are in the area. And my suggestions are to focus more on attracting more visitors, promote tourism campaigns that increase the volume of visitors, ensuring businesses benefit from greater demand without the need to raise prices, and invest in business support, using existing tax revenues to create grants or programs that help small businesses market their services or improve their facilities and help create more tourism for this area. And I would say I disagree with the gentleman who stated before that people don't come to Fishkill because it's pretty. Fishkill's gorgeous. I moved here from New York City because it's beautiful. Like, I am a transplant from New York City, and I live here because this area is absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. We have beautiful hiking that people come up for, and as a person who is in the midst of a bunch of hotels where my retail store is located, I can tell you, people come up for hiking, people come up for weddings because the photography is gorgeous. People come up from the city during this time of year because they just want to get out of the city and they want to see something different. They come up for skiing, they come up to see West Point, they come up to bring their kids to Splashdown in Fishkill. They come up because the restaurant scene here is incredible. They come up for agritourism. There is a laundry list of things, not to mention the historical stuff that we have here, just in Fishkill, not to mention the rest of Dutchess County. There are so many things that this town and this county have to offer, and you don't want to send people away from this area. Anyway, I'll close. We all want Fishkill to thrive. By taxing small locally owned accommodations and our corporate hotels too heavily risks undermining the very businesses that we would like to say define our community's character and attract visitors in the first place. Let's work together to find solutions that support our local businesses and our corporate hotels, encouraging tourism and maintaining the vibrancy of our town. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody that hasn't spoke wishes to speak?
Esteemed members of the board, although I'm a partner at Boutique Wines and Spirits, today I stand here as a representative of the Fishkill Business Association. As a board member, I urge this board to reconsider the idea of an occupancy tax on hotel and short stays in the town of Fishkill. I'm concerned about the idea that this may serve as a deterrent for people to come and stay in this area. As others have mentioned before, I am concerned that this may deter some of the films from being made in this area. Over the past few years, we have had such productions as White House Plumbers, Poker Face, Pretty Little Liars, and A Quiet Place, and so many more. And the people that worked on those productions have stayed here in Fishkill. Not just the actors, but the people who do sound, the people that do lighting, the people that do makeup, costumes, all of those people stay here in this town. Those people shopped in our stores, and they ate at our restaurants, and they came to our businesses. Not one or two people, but like dozens and hundreds of people over the last few years have come and spent money here with our businesses. And they paid taxes, sales taxes, in this town. During this year, being the year of the LA fires, when many productions are going to be looking for alternative locations to film outside of Hollywood, why would we want to make Fishkill a less attractive place for those production companies to want to spend their time? We'd want them to be more attracted to Fishkill. We want those people who are now looking for an opportunity that they can no longer get in LA to now look at Fishkill and be like, this is where we're going to come. We are going to come to Dutchess County. We need to make a change. There's no choice. Why would Fishkill want to be less attractive? And the bottom line is that small businesses in this town rely on tourists to spend money here all the time. I mean, Dutchess Tourism just spoke about all of the people that come in. There's a gentleman earlier that talked about locals and property taxes and how we shouldn't want to tax the locals and we should want to tax the people coming in. But 2023 stats that you can find on the Dutchess Tourism website talk about $817 is the additional amount that each household in Dutchess County would have to pay annually to replace the taxes contributed by visitors in our economy. So if we deter those visitors from coming, we deter those film productions from coming, we deter the weddings from coming up here and staying here, then we're all going to pay more in our taxes, in our home taxes. That household tax doesn't go away. I urge this board to reconsider or at least shelve this proposal until more conversation with local businesses and local hotels can be had so that we can all work together to make an already great Fishkill even greater. Thank you,
sir. Anybody that hasn't spoken wishes to speak? Ms. LaGoy?
Thank you. Okay, so I have a couple things that I just wanted to mention. Congratulations to the new town historian. That should be exciting. I know that he is very dedicated to Fishkill history, so that's exciting. One question, it doesn't need to be answered now, but during the highway meeting in December, Councilman Rye was designated by the supervisor for something, but I don't remember what that was. So at some point, it may come up, but I just was thinking about that. I'm very happy that the resolution.
You want me to tell you?
Well, let me get through and then you can, but thank you, hold on. I'm very happy the resolution to combine the water districts did not pass, as I agree it would have opened the door for inappropriate development along Route 9, which is called the Gateway into Fishkill. Development, however, is not exclusive to housing. There are quite a few development projects in front of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. For example, a very large warehouse at the former Fishkill Golf Course behind another very large warehouse that has already been approved but seems to be stagnant. So we stare at the Duchess Mall ongoing. One of the goals of the updated comprehensive plan was to consider land that may be more appropriately zoned for conservation. I'm wondering where the town board is on that particular goal. Last meeting, the board approved spending $100,000 on a plaque of a sword. It was suggested that this isn't taxpayer money because last year's referendum that the residents voted positively for, the sale of surplus land that included a house, would be spent on this plaque of a sword. It is still taxpayer money. And I do wonder, as did one of the other commentators, if the referendum would have been passed if residents were presented with the sale of this property, which included a house, being used to pay a plaque of a sword. As an aside, I also wonder if this $100,000 is in addition to the $400,000 allocated for the 250th anniversary. At the last meeting, there was much discussion and action surrounding establishing and eliminating staff positions. I mean, it really was hard to keep the scorecard straight. Without those changes being specifically identified in the budget, it is impossible to determine if there was actually a cost decrease or increase, let alone what positions made it off the chopping block. Does the town of Fishkill now have a human resources director or staff? Are these civil service positions? What about the legislative aide for $50,000? The police commissioner for another $40,000 or $50,000? It was suggested that a commissioner would eliminate some of the issues from the past by being the communicator between the board and the chief. What if you can't effectively communicate with that individual? Now you have another staff member for the town that you're paying that is just adding to the mix. How are these positions decided upon? The same issue became apparent last month with the reappointment of zoning board members. The lack of clear policy and procedure is very concerning. There is set to be a public hearing regarding the commissioner position, yet there is no clear outline for the public to comment on, such as that person's authority, what their duties are, or the hiring process to get them into the position. So I think there needs to be a lot more clarity from the board to the citizens so that people can actually make a comment during the public comment portion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That concludes the public comment. I'd like to make a motion that we put the historian in so he doesn't have to wait another half hour. Can we get him in for the presentation? You're up, sir.
That's okay.
Cooper?
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't want.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've heard everything you guys said, and it's great to hear that people care so much about Fishkill. Today, I'm going to talk about the great parts about.
Excuse me.
You got to speak in the mic.
I
will.
You got to address her.
I didn't start yet.
All right.
TV land wants to hear you.
Yes.
And thank you for Cooper for setting all this stuff up.
can't believe people don't want to celebrate the 250th.
Now, the town said they'll give me 4.5 hours to do this
Yes.
presentation.
Yes, sir.
You said that's how much you needed. You did promise it would be a bridge, so we only needed 4.5.
Of course. Go down where it says start.
You think he's gonna stay?
I think so. He's committed.
Start, yeah, just keep going until it says start.
We got voting in.
That's all.
This is where it starts.
Now, go down. Just keep going. Keep going.
He said.
Okay. All right. So thank you to the board, and thank you to Ozzy especially. Thank you for giving me this position. I did introduce myself last time. Today I'll talk a little bit more about myself and what we can do in Fishkill to celebrate the amazing history. I know that I've heard mention about people coming into Fishkill and what an amazing place Fishkill is, which it absolutely is. And I don't think enough people understand how important this place was and is, especially when we talk about the 250th anniversaries of the American Revolution. Many people are not aware that the war started in 1775. It did not start in 1776. So we do not start with the Declaration of Independence. The fighting starts in April of 1775. Now, I mentioned that, and I've mentioned before, this connection to the military history of the American Revolution. I am dressed as a militia soldier or a militia person that, was called up for emergencies. If you look on the town seal there, you see a Revolutionary War era soldier. This is our connection. And I feel that Fishkill has a unique position in the American Revolution because of the importance that we have had during our fight for independence. That is me, probably 25 years ago, and that uniform is getting tighter every year. I don't know why.
It happens.
It must be shrinking.
Wool shrinks.
That's what I
doesn't it?
think, yeah. So I've been a teacher for 21 years, 31 years. I've been awarded several awards and things like that. I live, eat, and breathe history. Obviously, if you look at me, there's something wrong, right? So I'm definitely committed to this. I've won awards in the past. In 2010, I won an award from the Daughters of the American Revolution. You might have heard of that organization. They are all descended from Revolutionary War people. I've got an Exemplary Service Award from Shelley Meyer, who is the New York State Senator in charge of the Education Committee. I've won awards for the Westchester Lower Hudson Council for Soul Studies. I got an award from Putnam County. And on July 4th, every year, I'm reading the Declaration of Independence somewhere in Putnam County. Now, I will talk to Ozzy about this, and obviously board members. Definitely, we should be doing something for the 4th of July here, and certainly for 2026, when we turn 250 years old as a nation. So these are things that I want people to get excited about. And if we're talking about tourism, historical tourism, get people in this town and celebrate, this is a way to do it.
You're here.
Yeah, and it's going to be great. I've already talked to Ozzy about these things. I talk to teachers, all right, new teacher orientations. I work in Carmel, and I do that in every other district, Wappingers or whatever. Mahopac Public Library. Public libraries are a great place to get people excited about history. I do a lot of things through the Living History Education Foundation, started by this guy, Joe Ryan, where we actually have equipment that we can actually get people dressed up, even board members maybe, and do overnight encampments, possibly with the community. So I will be discussing things like that. This is my administration of my school district. Getting them in uniform, getting them out, getting kids out, okay? This is what we did last June with the help of Denise Santalis. She's one of the greatest teachers that I work with. We get these kids out in uniform, in hot weather. And what do they say? Man, it's hot. Yeah, it was hot for those guys too. So we want people to understand that, and maybe we can get community involvement as well. We do a historical walking tour of Carmel. Maybe we could do that here in Fishkill with the students, all right? If you look at the two kids in the front, that is called a smile. That is not something you see on kids' faces too much today because they bury their faces in phones. Well, let's get these kids out. Let's get community members out. In Carmel, we have, we have the Sybil Luddington statue. Here, we have the Daniel Ninham statue, right? So I deal with kids all the time, and I want the local students to get involved. I mean, to hear thank you, that's a pretty rare thing as a teacher, all right? So, why do I believe in living history, and why do I want this to happen here in Fishkill? I want to encourage this love and passion for history, especially here in Fishkill. We have so many local sites in Fishkill that were here during the American Revolution. Let's let people know about it. And I want the community to be proud. I want people that live here to stay here. I want people to move here. I heard somebody mention they came up from New York City and what a drop-dead gorgeous place this is. And it is. So we want people to understand that. So as a town historian, this is the kind of thing that I want to do. That is the bane of my existence, all right? That phone and that generation is completely enamored with that thing. Let's get them outside. Let's get them sweating. Let's get them doing things. Let's get them excited about the 250th anniversary. I'll give you guys a little quiz. What is the word for the 250th anniversary? 200 was the bicentennial. Give us.
It's so whatever centennial.
There's another way to say it. You're almost right there. The semi-quincentennial or the sesquicentennial. That is not bad. That's pretty good. Now, all right, not as catchy as bicentennial, but still great. New York State has a committee. Westchester has a committee. Dutchess has a committee. All right. So we're going to be working with these guys, and we're going to get events going here. Just to give you an idea, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay, because you're on a roll, you're fantastic. And I'm glad you're in the slot. So, but from what I'll be interested to hear what you hear from Dutchess County and what they're doing for the 250th, I really would. Yeah. But from what I hear, they're not going to be doing anything as meaningful as what we're doing.
It depends. I mean, because obviously, Dutchess County and Putnam didn't exist. That was part of Dutchess County. So we got to see. But I will contact them, all right? And I will be in touch. I know one of the guys that's on the committee. But, we'll see. We're going to make our own stuff. I mean, we're going to do this stuff. But just to give you an idea of how big these things can be, I was on that boat on the left-hand side at the Boston Tea Party 250th anniversary. The entire city came out. That's me in the middle. That's me pouring the tea for the actual 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. Guess how many spectators showed up? 10,000. So if you want to talk about getting people into this town and getting people excited about the 250th, that's the kind of stuff we can do. Now, we don't have that water source, but I guess maybe Fishkill Landing.
We had a tea party.
We did have a tea party here, and we missed that anniversary, but we'll talk about others. Big fireworks displays. If you guys were around during the bicentennial, I was, and I remember it was huge celebrations. So that's the kind of thing what we want to do.
I was in the city and saw it, so it was great.
I missed that by a couple of decades.
I was 6. You could do the math on that one. So I'm not getting political on this. The Fishkill Supply Depot, guys, is one of the most important supply depots in the entire country. That's actually a painting of Valley Forge, but that's what Fishkill looked like. That was one of the largest depots in the entire country for the Continental Army. It encompassed that whole area. I show you where Route 9 is and Route 84, and you can see down to Fishkill Landing. massive area, right? Again, not discussing the political use of land that we're talking about today. I am just talking about the importance of the Fishkill Supply Depot.
I didn't know it was that huge. I knew it was.
Oh, yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you mind going back a
Yeah.
slide?
That's the historic area that they say. Again, it's not that it's protected and you can't do anything there,
Well,
but
so there were a couple skirmishes right at the Putnam
Yes.
line on Route 9, right?
Wikipedia Pass, yes.
Wikipedia Pass, there was
Yeah.
actually some fighting right there.
That's where we have the battery.
Yeah, you guys, there is remnants of readouts, and you guys were talking about the gateway to Fishkill. You talk about geography, if you look at the mountains, they come together right there, that's the gateway, right?
And you
There's a
have-
reason why Fishkill is here. Yeah, sorry.
When you look at the bottom tip of Fishkill, you're maybe only about a mile away from West Point.
Yeah. And that's why Washington is going to put the Fishkill Supply Depot here to be a little further away from the river and close to West Point, and to be by that military road, which is it's not 84, Route 52 is the military road. But you're talking a strategic importance here that is unparalleled. The Hudson River is the key to the continent, and Fishkill was the key supply depot. So this is what we're talking about here. Now, what happened here in Fishkill? Not only a military supply depot, it's hospitals here. Now, I don't know if you could see that trephining device behind the doctor there, but that guy's going to get a hole in his head because they're going to relieve the pressure. These are kinds of things that happened in hospitals at that time. The Van Wyck House was not too far away from probably where most of the hospitals were, all right? So we'll talk about that, the Van Wyck House. Guys, that is the headquarters to the Fishkill Supply Depot. People that walk through that door, and by the way, the original building goes back to 1732, and I do classes there all the time. I work well with them. I mean, Washington walked through that door. Putnam, probably Benedict Arnold at a certain point, Lafayette, all Alexander Hamilton, all the big names walked through that door. And those doors are the same, by the way. Also, if you ever heard of Enoch Crosby, Enoch Crosby was a spy during the American Revolution. They would put on mock trials in that house, all right? He would be convicted of being a loyalist. They'd put him in jail in the church, and then they would let him escape, yeah. So that church was used as a prison. So this is all happening here in Fishkill. And if you ever heard of James Fenimore Cooper, he wrote The Spy in 1821, that's about Enoch Crosby, all right? They call him Harvey Birch in the story. Now, things that we have here in Fishkill that we definitely want to tell people about. Certainly Ozzy knows about this, okay? The dedication of the statue there, Michael Karopian. I had both of his kids in my class, so I'm a good friend of his, and that's a spectacular thing that was put up. I've been to his studio. It's in Carmel, right? So that's where the Bailey sword statue is being made, right? So not too far from here.
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean...
Way in the country.
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful house, beautiful studio. But talking about another thing in Fishkill, Washington's favorite sword, not just a sword, Washington's favorite sword was made here by John Bailey. If you look at that painting and you look at that sword, that is the sword that was made here in Fishkill.
Yep.
Now, the painting was made 100 years later, and he was not wearing the sword at the time. But the artist put his favorite sword in there, and that was made here in Fishkill. So you're talking about something very important, and that's going to be the monument.
Go back to the monument.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some residents, very few residents don't like it, but I want to show the residents what's coming, because quite frankly, there was hesitation with the Chief Nimem statue.
Okay.
It was a 3-2 vote, it barely passed, it got done, it's probably got 99% approval rating in the town of Fishkill. So this is going to be another great addition right here.
And the good news about it is you can park and come and see it.
Yes, which is different than what you have now,
Right,
the small
yes.
monument, yeah.
And one last thing is where it's going to go, that Memorial Park area, we're going to be getting funds from the state later this year to rework the entire area. To make it just a lot more scenic, more Arlington Cemetery than backyard looking. It just needs a major facelift.
More welcome.
And you're commemorating something that's that important. I mean, I'm not, I'm not belittling this. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
To make Washington's favorite sword here is amazing.
It's big.
All right. The Brinkerhoff Inn, I know the owner just, I just talked to him a little bit. George Washington stayed in that house many times.
Yeah.
So did Lafayette.
Lafayette.
All right. So as a matter of fact, we have a monument to Lafayette right at Roundabout Cemetery.
Here, here.
A lot of American militia guys are buried in that cemetery.
Yes.
This is East Fishkill, but that house was another Brinkerhoff house. That's not Fishkill itself, but it's East Fishkill. Of course, the Trinity Episcopal Church. I mean, that's where the original New York State government met for a short time. I mean, that's the same building, right? Roundabout Cemetery, like I mentioned before, and I've done many events there. So all I wanted to do tonight is give you a little bit more insight into me, also about what we can do here, get people excited about this town. It's got a lot to be proud of, and I am super excited to work with you guys and work with the town. So thank you again for giving me this time, and have a great night. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Looking forward to this.
Good night, guys.
Okay, liaison.
Can I make one statement, just for 30 seconds?
No, it's okay, come on, Paul. Let's roll. We're all right, we're good. Good night, everyone. Good night, Cooper. Thank you for coming and doing this.
Thanks, Coop.
Oh, you just came for
He
that?
just came for this,
Yeah,
yeah.
he just came. Just
Well, thank you, Cooper.
Yes.
Thank you,
See you later. See you tomorrow, Jason. Okay, next up is liaison member reports. Jackie, you have anything? It's your first month?
Yeah, no, I still haven't received my assignments.
Okay.
But I have been in town and starting to talk to, you know, the employees and getting my feet wet again. So one of the, I think, important things, and Louise has brought this out many times, is, you know, what are we doing in the controller's office and what's happening with the money? And I agree with Louise, and that's something that I would like us to receive more reports from the controller's office, and like to discuss that with him.
Greg?
I would just like to let everyone know, of course, Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Today would have been his 95th birthday. January 15th, 1929 was Martin Luther King's date of birth. And obviously, as we look forward to Monday and remember the importance of his contributions to our society becoming a little more civil and accepting, I hope that we can all carry his legacy with us as we move forward. I did want to just clarify one thing that was mentioned at the podium earlier, which is the, especially because the attorney, oh, excuse me, wow, I'm all over the place tonight. Our historian did just make a report about the town and about America 250. There were some concerns about how much money the town is spending on the 250th celebration. I just want to clarify for anyone who was confused. We adopted a 5-year capital plan, which is sort of a budgeting tool. It helps us plan expenditures for future years, but it is not an actual budgetary allocation. It lets us anticipate how much money we might need for something. And with the capital plan, correct me, Supervisor, but when we were preparing budgets in your office while I was your secretary, we tended to minimize or underestimate revenue and overestimate expenses. So the $400,000 that is listed in the capital plan is, one, it's not committed funds, and that is at the very high end of what we could possibly expect to be spending. So the exact amount of money that we will need to budget, we will have a much clearer picture on as we go through this year. But I would be surprised if it is anywhere close to $400,000. We simply are using that to help us figure out how much money might be necessary, assuming that expenses cost much more than we think they're going to, and revenues come in far lower than we expect. That's how we use the capital plan.
Thank you. John?
My only comment is I'm a little disappointed in the treatment of our former Human Resources Director. We came to a meeting 2 weeks ago, and there was a resolution for special consideration to eliminate that position. Now, it is my understanding that she didn't know that her position was getting eliminated. because she went to work the next day, and her computer was off, and you know, she was escorted out of the building by the police department. So there is definitely a lack of communication here, and I don't think she was treated properly.
Brian?
That's it.
It was a slow 2-week period.
Okay. There are my comments now. We have all seen the devastation that the fires in Los Angeles have caused. Our hearts and prayers go out to all the residents that are suffering. This is a reminder of how important proper fire protection services can be. The Los Angeles Fire Department is a paid department. Here in Fishkill, we rely on selfless volunteers to help us keep us safe. This is why myself and the members of the town board have made it very clear to the developer interested in the downstate property that proper fire protection services are necessary to protect that project and the people that end up living there. This would include any new equipment deemed to be necessary with the input from the fire department. The town also has retained legal services pertaining specifically to fire protection needs. We found a special lawyer in the state to do that. Those steps are how we as a town can take preemptive measures to help try to avert any possible future tragic situation. Just want to talk a little bit about the 250th anniversary. We are blessed with a lot of history, especially American Revolutionary War history. And as a father of 4 kids, I can tell you, I hear all kinds of things about America, the United States. And one of the things I don't like is how our children being brought up don't know anything about our history, because if they knew about our history, I think America would be a better place to live. And here in the town of Fishkill, as your town supervisor, I've taken some simple steps, not even costly. We did the Chief Nimam statue, as I said. It passed with a 3-2 vote. And as Councilman Rice said, basically the only problem is people can't stop to walk to it because it's a busy intersection. And hopefully within 3 or 4 years, when DOT puts a traffic circle there, we might get some parking spaces there. This year, me and Brian have been working on the Washington Sword project. That's going to be about $100,000. We're going to create a passport for the residents of the town of Fishkill. Maybe have 15, 20 destinations where they can go. You'll get a book either in your mailbox or on your front stoop. You complete the passport, you come to town hall, we're going to make a special pin that you'll be able to receive. This is to promote your history, because this is a big town. People that live on 9D don't know people that live in Dutchess Park or in Merritt Boulevard. I want to try to get people to go all throughout the town and realize such a special place that we live, that we're blessed in. It is so much to promote our history that the residents become more of a community, because really what's happening before I came here, we started becoming a bedroom community. And once you become a bedroom community, you don't have these ties to your local history or the past. I think total, $100K for the statue, $10K maybe for the passports, maybe $5K for some pins. I'd like to do a firework display when we read the Declaration of Independence on a certain day in the summer. I'm looking at less than about $150,000 for this whole thing to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I understand there's a few Scrooges out there that don't want to spend anything, that don't care about their history, but I anticipate this is going to be a great event, and I anticipate a vast majority of the residents of Fishkill are going to see some unique opportunities and treasures that they didn't even know existed in this town. And I just wanted to say that before we move forward. So next up will be discussion. The first discussion will be discussion request on the Dutchess County DOT install school zone signs on Jackson Street. I believe Brian and John were working on that one.
Well, when we had the highway meeting or the traffic meeting at Highway on a Saturday, village trustee Danielle Hughes had indicated that she has a child going to the school there, St. Mary's, and that, of course, there's a lot of traffic that's comes zipping by, and why is there no school zone? And Doug McCool, our county legislator, was there, and we were talking, and we agreed that I would bring this to the town board to pass, because the school is while she's, interested, her child goes there, she's a trustee. We need to pass this so, we can have the school zone signs placed there. I spoke with Father Joe, called him, and said, just want to ask you, I see him all the time because he lives on our street. I know Ann LaGoy must see him a lot more than I do, given where he lives. But I said, you know, why is there not a school zone sign, and have you ever thought about it? And he said, well, it's about time. Please get it done. So with that said, I'd like to get this passed. And now it's going to be, as I spoke with Danielle Hughes a few days ago, it will be up to her to work with Doug McCool and the school on where they should be placed. So I think it's a fair thing to try to reduce traffic speeds in the area. It's a worthy little vote.
So who's going to put the town up? The town's going to put the signs up, or the county?
We vote for it, and the county is going to put them up.
So can
we're
we have
requesting the county.
So we have Mr. Gabbard present a resolution for that for the next meeting, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is discussion of resolution to accept the resignation of Officer Kelly Aliuccio. Any questions?
All be best to her.
I just have to say that this came as a surprise to me, and I agree with the comment out there on you know, an exit interview. I really wish, I'd like to know, you know,
okay,
her reason for leaving. I know that she is admired. I did a ride along with her. She was just fantastic to communicate with. People in the community love her. She was involved with community policing. She was involved with the kids at Fishkill Elementary in the DARE program, and she's totally loved over there. And so it's a great loss for the town. And I don't know if there are any reasons, but it would be nice to hear.
In my conversation most recently with Chief Clark, he indicated it should be known that Officer Aloisio is a full-time officer in Marlboro, in addition to being a part-time officer with the town and with the village. And the chief conveyed to me that her resignation here was just simply out of concerns, is that she wanted to spend more time with her children.
Okay.
You know, so perhaps, you know, scaling back the number of hours worked when you already have a full-time and 2 part-time jobs. It's certainly understandable when you're raising kids.
Madam Clerk?
I just have a question with discussion item number 1. When would you like it tabled to, sir?
We're going to do a resolution, right?
Yes.
We'll do a resolution.
Yeah.
So you can close number 1. Just close it.
Hold it, do we have that?
We don't have a resolution. There's no resolution.
Mr. Gabel will prepare one for the February 5th meeting.
I'm confused. No, we don't have it, you're right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can close number 1 out.
Yes, I did read the packets.
Okay. You can close number 2 out too then. Next up, discussion of resolution to accept
Let's move to resolution.
Yeah, it's resolution. Discussion of resolution to accept the Oak Meadows Mobile Home Park permit application. Routine, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, is it 60 or 65? I saw 2 different numbers, so.
What number you got here?
There's been no new added according to what they said from last year.
It's the same?
That's what they said.
Okay, because I see,
And Joel,
I mean, it's a small thing. I don't know that it matters. Maybe it does, but it says in the resolution 60, but it says on the paperwork 65, so.
No, that's not right then.
It also says 60.
It should be what's on the resolution then, right?
There's 60 and there's 65 handwritten here, so.
But, may I, Supervisor? On page 19, it also says 60. I don't have that answer.
Yes, I did see that as well. But on the document that says application, well, two pages of
No, I see.
application.
It says up to and including 5, and thereafter 60.
correct.
So that would be 65.
Right.
The first 5 plus an additional 60.
So can we just amend the resolution right now to 65? I mean,
Why do we have to?
I don't know. Do we have to?
No.
Does the actual number in the resolution affect its implementation?
Sarah?
We could table it.
The number should be correct.
Okay.
So, and I do see on the first page that it has total number of units as 65.
Right.
It's logical to say that it's the 5 plus the additional 60. It's a minor thing, though, as long as it wouldn't hold up the permit.
Because they're building 2 additional trailers. If you go past, you can see it.
I'm just pointing it out. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's no big deal, you know.
They're adding trailers.
Yeah.
Is this something that if we were to adopt it as written, and we realize that that's really just a typographical error and should read 65 instead of 60, that it could be corrected without a revote?
No, you would need to do a revote with the corrected version.
Okay.
Can we just correct it now?
Yeah, can we admit it now?
They're adding a couple more trailers. When you go down, look to the
Right.
right.
So
they're
it's
putting 2 more in
65.
there.
65.
It could be 62.
Up to 65?
I would think that amending it to 65, given the application, is safe, because even if they only max out at 60, they would have permission by permit to do 65.
So, should I propose to amend this?
Is that in consent?
It's in consent.
That's all right.
Okay,
You guys
let's-
change the consent agenda all the time, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And you already did one, you removed, so I have to play with it anyway, so.
Okay.
So Brian, you
really
can make that
makes no
amendment.
difference.
Make a motion to amend it?
Make a motion to amend
Total number of units.
the total number of units in the resolution from 60 to 65.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Number 4 is the same one for BGB Trailer Park. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Number 5, Town Board to discuss considering the creation of the ward system. I'm not going to mention too much about it because Mr. Gabb is not here. But there's 2 things I like to do. I like to protect the residents of the town of Fishkill. I'm very concerned what's happening in Rockland County and parts of Orange County. I want to protect the residents of Fishkill just on that matter. And I'd like to expand the ward from 4 board members to 6 to prevent any not-for-profits that could take over the town. Because if right now, if you had 3, if there was a big development, let's say Downstate came in and put 3,000 people in there, they effectively can run the town of Fishkill and do what they want to do. So I'm not saying that's going to happen in Downstate, but as a town supervisor, I think long-term, and that's why I want to have a ward system and add 2 board members. So hypothetically, if 2 not-for-profits in 2 parts of town did take over those areas and the town supervisor's position, that would be 3, and then we would have 4 people. It'd be a 4-3 advantage for the town to protect the town of Fishkill from not-for-profits from running the town. That's as simple as I'm going to say it. I want to put it up for a vote for residents of Fishkill. I think once I further explain this to the residents of Fishkill, they'll understand. I think it's going to pass overwhelmingly.
Supervisor, we know not to say too much without Mr. Gaba, because he can speak to the legal aspects of what goes into it. But there is an additional consideration, which is this town is one of a select few in New York that has term limits.
That's right.
As a result of this, it's important that new people get involved in the process of leading the town as council members. Certainly no more than 8 years is the max that anyone can spend in a seat on the town board.
Are we going to spend a lot of time on this? I thought we were just going to touch on it.
It's okay.
I don't mean to be rude, Greg, but
No, it's just, I'm always the one who gets cut off, Brian. It's just,
Well, no, I mean...
Finish up.
No, I mean, I had another minute to go, and clearly it's not okay, so we'll just talk about it another time.
Well, that's what I thought. I was going to touch on it, and then we're going to move on. We should have just tabled it because Gaba's not here. And there's a lot to consider here.
Exactly, which is why I wanted to share a point with the residents that they could consider while we are waiting for a more robust discussion when our council is here. I thought the information would be useful for them.
I apologize, Greg.
This is 2 parts. The number 1 part is to protect the residents of the town of Fishkill from a hostile takeover, what's happening in Rockland and parts of Orange County. That's the bottom line.
And
Madam Clerk, we'll table that to the February 5th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just one quick.
Yeah.
So I'm all for putting on a referendum, let the people vote. But is it still your idea to do this in a non-voting time, like outside of June or November?
Yes, I like to have a special election prior to school being out. I don't want this to become a political event. I want the people that watch these meetings, read the paper, get our emails, that understand what's going on in the town of Fishkill, to make this the only issue that they come out and vote. I don't want this to be sullied by politics.
Well,
that's what could happen.
See, now that's interesting, because when we have a regular election, people come out more in mass. If we have a special election,
Very small turnout.
there is a very, very small turnout, and it's going to cost us $20,000 for that or something? I mean,
it's well worth it. So let me ask you a
I
question.
don't know that it's well worth it. This is what we're going to discuss.
You guys support the governor's initiative of moving the elections to even years, the odd years, to get more people to come out and vote?
No, because it defeats the emphasis on local politics and local issues. You get swamped by
Like what?
state and federal.
Like what? Like when the National Republicans say that Democrats are defunding the police, and when in the town of Fishkill, I increase police spending, and I see signs out there saying I defunded the police? Come on, man.
But ladies and gentlemen, we would have been talking about this too long if I had made my point.
That's an interesting...
That would have been too much.
That's an interesting reach back in time
It's a
But
fact.
I thought we were just going to touch on this. Can we
We
just
would
move on?
have been done by now.
You put a vacant
just move
house
on?
on a public referendum in the November election, but,
Yeah.
but going to a ward system and
Yes,
that's
I want
it's
this,
not worth it.
I want this to be the only issue. This is a major undertaking of changing the way the town of Fishkill government is being run.
Yeah,
That's why we
absolutely.
want a big turnout.
That's why we want a big turnout, participation.
Then let's engage in a robust public information campaign
what's-
at the town level
Absolutely.
in a completely unbiased, matter-of-fact way. I'm sure the town attorney could help us prepare. We could do a mailing to every house.
Yep.
Along with all the information that everyone would need to ensure a robust turnout for this. I would
Documentation.
fully support that.
And the residents of Fishkill understand there are 932, 33 towns in New York State. Less than 20 have this. There are 932, 33 towns. Only less than 12 have term limits. So term limits is a good thing. You could only have 2 4-year terms sitting on this board, whether consecutive or not. And when you have a ward system, you'll have 6 people, and every 8 years you'll have different people on the board with different ideas, so it doesn't get stagnant. But we'll move on to the next topic right there.
You also, there is a downside to it, but
What
we're
is
going to
that?
talk about that another time. We'll move on.
Protect the, imagine a non-for-profit running the town of Fishkill. Is it worth that chance?
No, in some ways, you and I do agree with this, but we've got to have both sides, especially when we have the election. But that's
Yeah, I think we should
another
have
time.
before school ends.
And I personally think that this is an opportunity to move away from partisanship.
Absolutely.
I'll expound on that more during a full discussion, but, everyone should be involved, but it shouldn't be both sides. It should be let's, to the extent that we can, get rid of the partisanship that tends to infiltrate every level of politics now, when parties really didn't matter below the state level not too long ago.
Yeah, I could see how putting that into its own little pocket might remove,
Right.
the blemish of, oh, you're a Democrat, oh, you're a Republican. No, this is about Fishkill.
And what's even better, if we did the ward system, you as a citizen will have the capacity to run as an independent and actually get elected to the board with a fair shot at doing that. You wouldn't have to be a Republican or a Democrat.
Right.
You can sit here,
What's that?
work for about a month and a half, you can get on this board. And, it's difficult to do the entire town of Fishkill to get on this
It's
board.
a very
So,
labor-intensive process.
Either you either have to campaign like me, or be owned by a political party, or have somebody give you a lot of money. That's the only way you get on this board. What's so funny? It's true.
I don't,
Campaign
I
like
don't
you.
know
No,
who's
it's true.
owned by a party around here. I think we all work very hard.
Next up,
All right, let's move on.
next up is discussion of resolution to hire a clerk for the finance department. Everybody okay with that?
She's good.
Is this another clerk, or is this one,
We put.
did we put Sonny on?
We had
last-
a
last
clerk
one?
that went to
we
water.
We moved the guy into water, and this guy's gonna do, the vouchers and things like that was mentioned earlier, but not getting done. Okay.
And there were resumes
It
that
is a
were
woman
reviewed,
now.
right, and
Of course there
different
were.
people that were interviewed.
Of course. That's off the civil service list. Next up is discussion to hire Connor McSorley as part-time police assistant. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, next up, number 8, discussion of the room occupancy tax. I do not support it, but 2 board members were able to get it on the agenda, and it's up for discussion. I'm a no. I don't need to say much more.
So, when I was running for office the last time, I just took note of everywhere I go, in the United States of America, there's a room occupancy tax. And so it occurred to me that if there's a way to offset expenses directly, offset some potential taxes to our residents, why don't I just ask them, as I am knocking on doors, many hundreds of doors, and to a person who is a resident in the town and a property owner that I talk to, when I just said, what do you think about this? And it might help to offset any taxes and expenses that we have. Everybody was for it. That's number one. Number two, we have ongoing increases in expenses in this town. We've just signed a PBA contract increasing our officers' salaries, and then we've got the unionization of highway, well-deserved, and that's increasing a great deal. There's nothing about running a town And oh, by the way, we have energy. We have to keep the lights on and keep the heat on and air conditioning, and that expense, as you can imagine, in your home, but here, it's gone up dramatically, just everything constantly. And so, I will say, so everyone's very patient about this. This is a two-step process. See, it came quickly because I brought it up, and Greg, and I'm glad this is a very bipartisan thing. John and I have talked about this before, a couple of years ago, and then I brought it up because I said, my gosh, we're going to have major expenses going forward. And Greg was very interested in participating in this. So, I mean, I've looked at the towns around us, and we're surrounded by towns with an occupancy tax. Across the river, room tax. And, of course, we know that Dutchess County is getting their fair share. I did, we're talking about room rates. I did comparable room rates on Expedia, just out of curiosity to see where we are. And, for instance, a weekend, because that seemed to be the topic here, so I did a weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. Across the river, a Hampton Inn, $319. A Residence Inn here, $290. I'm not doing the cents. But if you do the occupancy tax on top of that, it's $303, and we're still below. So, but the thing is, and I know that there are people here that know that I've been in the film industry and still pray to the dear Lord there's an opportunity with my SAG membership one day something will happen. But anyway, you can hope. And when Tina Fey came through with that film, I tried to get on that film, but no, I had to listen to Doug McCool talk about her shooting at his funeral parlor in East Fishkill, but I digress. So I know that when a major motion picture or an independent motion picture comes out of the city, having pursued acting in the city, having been around a number of films down there and up here, you can't duplicate the surroundings. The costs are infinitely low for location. There are a number of things that keep the cost low when you come up here. And I'm just going to disagree with that. But where I sit is I've talked to tons of people that are citizens here and property owners that like this idea, okay? And that's number one. And number two, so giving them, and Greg, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, and I'm going to keep this very brief. We just did the rent control for good cause for people who rent in this town to try to help them with huge increases in rent so they can stay in their rental dwellings. And those are citizens of our towns that this board acted on. And so this is, I consider, the flip side of that for property owners, that where we can add a little bit more relief. Now, there's a two-phase thing. There's a vote now to get this to the legislature, and it's submitted to the Senate and the Assembly. And then when it's passed, we get the bill numbers, they come back, and we have to have another vote. So there's going to be time to have more conversation, but we do need to work on this now. Greg, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, Brian, I think you summed it up very well, and I've been happy to work with you on this. I have a unique perspective on the board here in that before I began working for the town, I managed the check-in shift at a hotel in Fishkill for about 2.5 years. And in that span of time, I learned that there are a few factors that go into occupancy. And cost is certainly one of them, but the ones that matter the most are geographic convenience, in terms of where are you located relative to what you're going to do. And then the second is not cost, but it's cost adjacent, and that's value per dollar. I worked at a relatively modest establishment. It wasn't a luxury brand. The facilities were adequate but not exceptional. And yet most weekends we were at 82 sold out capacity. And the reason was because you received very good service at our hotel. We got very good reviews online. Good businesses do good business. And a nominal increase, and it really is nominal, increase that is paid not by the business, but is paid by the guest at the business, doesn't have an appreciable negative impact on that business's operation. Dutchess County already collects an occupancy tax for people staying in Dutchess County. It should be noted that when a representative of our local tourism agency came and spoke against the town collecting an occupancy tax, they had no objection to Dutchess County collecting an occupancy tax. It's just us that they object to being able to benefit from the businesses which operate in our own town without passing that budgetary burden off to our business community through direct tax increases or to our residential property owners through taxes that way as well. Taxes are never fun. No one says, how can I raise taxes today? That's never the objective. But there is a secondary consideration here, which is that, members of this board have expressed concerns about budgetary practices, about our fund balance. We have an obligation to maintain balanced budget, maintain the town's fiscal health. The supervisor has made that a priority since he's been here. In recent years, there was what I believe a grave error in judgment that was made in removing a large amount, $750,000 almost, out of our tax levy, which is not a one-time thing that carries over and has year after year consequences. That needs to be addressed because all of the fiscally responsible decisions which the supervisor and the board have made over the last several years can be undone by a single decision that has large consequences like that. And this is, of the methods of increasing revenue, the one which places the least amount of burden on the greatest amount of people. And by that I mean to say the 25,000 residents of the town of Fishkill, in that they do not pay this tax. And for me, that makes it a very simple thing to support, especially in light of the fact, as I spoke with Brian, a large number of municipalities, certainly municipalities with multiple hotel accommodation businesses within their borders, most of them in our area have some form of occupancy tax. Fishkill is an exception to that rule. Is it not, Ryan?
That's true. Every one of them, actually. So even City of Beacon.
That's brand new. That's brand new. That's new.
So, okay. But they have it.
The tax of 5%
We'll let you,
Okay, all right, well,
This is a
anyway.
you'll be able to speak again. We have about 2 minutes you'll be able to speak. Yeah.
So
that's all I have.
Jackie?
So, for me, I feel like this is something that's kind of being forced upon us because you think there's this time crunch with the legislature so we can get it done now. I just feel like, once we do this with the legislature, that we're going to be kind of compelled to move forward with the tax. This argument that it's minimal, that people of Fishkill are not going to feel any consequences, I think we're not looking at the big picture, at unintended consequences. I don't think we brought this up without any input from the community, no input from businesses, very little research on the big picture. You want to talk about fiscal responsibility? Let's look a bit more at what we're spending the money on instead of trying to impose a tax. We see tonight from the input from the community and the business people that there could be some really big impacts on our community. I've been told, speaking to you guys, that there's no burden on the residents. I think that's wrong. Clearly, visitors drive our economy. And if we're smart, we can work to increase visitors to us, especially that we have the anniversary of the American Revolution coming up. Mm-hmm. That could be a really good spearhead to increase tourism. Maybe can we get more grants for tourism? We were talking about skiing, cross-country, horseshoeing, restaurants, agritourism, historical production, historical things, production companies, conservations. And we're going to have more trails coming through Fishkill. You know, one of them will be coming out by the statue of Nimham, which right now is not as accessible as I would like it to have been. So I think the expansion of the trails will also increase visitors and tourism. And again, you know, I think if we're going to have a tax, shouldn't we talk about specifically why we need the tax and what we're going to use it for? So these are all things that I think a lot of people brought to our attention tonight, and I thank them for it, but I just don't think we've thought this through. So I'm a no.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I do agree with Councilwoman Bardini on the fact that it is a quick turnaround, but that is the state's schedule that we have to abide by. This has to be up to Albany sooner than later, and signed, sealed, and delivered by a second vote by this town before the end of March. So it is a quick turnaround. You know, every resident in Fishkill, when they travel up to Erie County, and I mean the Buffalo area, and Monroe County, and I mean Rochester, Onondaga, the Syracuse area, Albany, Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk, and New York City, everybody pays a room tax. But when the visitors come to Fishkill, we don't charge them anything. And I mean anything, I mean the town doesn't directly benefit from a room tax in Fishkill. But our residents pay everywhere. And I just think it's, you know, we have these big trucks now that Carmine has that cost $200,000–$400,000 that the insurance company paid for. But those trucks, the other trucks are going to have to be replaced. And it's just a revenue stream that this town could use. And I promise everybody in this room, knock on 300 doors of your neighbors and ask them, would you rather have a property tax increase or would you rather have a room tax and let the out-of-towners pay? And 300 people will tell you, out of 300, I'd rather have the room tax.
All right, any other board members or any other comments?
I'm done for now.
No, all right, I'm good. So that, we have a resolution for that. Close out number 8.
Move to resolution.
Number 9, we have a resolution, yes. I don't listen? Okay. Next up is discussion of resolution objective to congested pricing in New York City. I support this resolution 100%. Any other questions? We good with doing it?
No, we discussed it last meeting.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay. Next up, discussion of property maintenance law regarding Van Wyck Lake Road. On Van Wyck Lake Road, we knocked down the house maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, and now there's still about 10, 15 cars that are on the property. We want to get rid of the cars. So, madam, can you let Mr. Gavin know that we need to move on this with the building inspector?
Number 10.
Number 10?
What am I minded? I'm just reviewing my notes. But
Yes,
I
on
will
both of
let
them.
him know. Thank you.
And the other one, the Route 5282 project, which is by the Chief Nimham statue, was the old Cube Smart project, which you see that big slab there. It's time to do something about that.
They've had a long time.
Yeah, they did about time.
They've gotten to the point to where they got to put a performance bond in. And when Jackie was on the board the first time, when this happened, the town didn't have any type of performance bond, so a developer can come in and walk away from the project. That doesn't happen anymore. We require a performance bond for any project to go forward, and that got done on Jackie's first term. I appreciate that, Jackie. So they're waiting to put in the performance bond, and then they get the building permit, and then they can develop the site. But that's been, as Brian said, a long time ago, at least 6-7 months ago.
Oh, longer.
Maybe even, I believe it.
Yeah.
So I want to move, that's a priority for Mr. Gaba, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is privilege of the floor for agenda items. This is the opportunity to speak only what's on the agenda. You wanted to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Thanks very much. Brian, I don't doubt for a second that when you asked all those residents what their opinion was, that they agreed with you. But I think that's because they didn't have all the information.
Correct.
And that's what we're trying to share with you all. If they had all the information, they might make a different decision. I also want to point out the fact that when you say people come here, they don't get charged an occupancy tax. That is not true. They get charged the occupancy tax through the county, and that money gets put in, redistributed throughout the county to different municipalities, probably not to the level that you would like.
Just stop right there for a second. The town of Fishkill is a big economic driver,
Sure
especially
is.
with sales tax. We don't get nearly what we should get. So I get a little hesitant when you talk about the county. The county,
can't say
the
you don't
county
get
makes,
any.
the county makes out on the town of Fishkill. We don't, we are a giver.
Yes.
We are subsidizing the rest of the county.
I am not disagreeing,
So-
but you do still benefit from that, because also some of that through the general, Dutchess Tourism is funded primarily for county government, the Dutchess County IDA from private sector dollars for grant money that we raise, and we promote this whole area. So bringing people here to fill your hotels, that's part of what that funding goes for as well. If you want to talk about Syracuse and Onondaga County and Monroe County, I have college students. Fortunately, they're done. I'm a proud graduate of Syracuse University, and every year, 100 or more of my friends go back for homecoming, and I will tell you, when the city of Poughkeepsie, or excuse me, when the city of Syracuse increased their occupancy tax on top of what the county was charging, our 100 room nights every year, and that's 2 to 3 nights for that weekend, we moved 10 minutes north to avoid that. We saved each of ourselves about $100 a night for doing that. So it does make a difference in real life. People do look at that in their pocketbooks. And so if they are coming here, if they are spending more on our hotels because of the additional tax, that means their budget, their travel budget, they're spending less at our businesses. And that hurts our businesses. And it might help the town, but it hurts the people in our community that love those businesses, that run and own those businesses. So please do consider that as well. Sir, your quote about 80% occupancy, you must have worked during the fall. Because I will tell you, in January, February, Monday, Tuesday nights, 40% occupancy, maybe, if we're lucky, when it averages out. Yes, weekends are busy, fall is busy, May is busy with graduations, but more often times of the year, it's much, much less than that, so that's not accurate. I would suggest that you speak with Laurent Reho of the Hudson Valley Film Commission. You see all the productions that do come here. What you don't see are the ones that don't, who've said, we can't come here, it's too expensive, we found a better place, or they found all the locations that they want to film here, they think everything's great, but they can't make the money work, and somebody else somewhere is gonna give them a better deal and better tax credits and other things. They have no hesitation in leaving, because it's all about the bottom line. And even though they've come here and they've had great experiences working with our hotels, working with our local crew, they have a bottom line just like you do, and they will not choose to be here. So what you're not seeing are the ones that we lost. So please do keep that in mind as well. And then just finally, I do encourage you to continue to ask questions. That's what we're here for. We have data and research to share with you, people that have done this around the county. Some of those occupancy taxes for other towns in the area are new, and I think they're going to suffer. And they haven't seen it, and we weren't aware of it, so we couldn't share that information that we have to support the argument against it. In terms of the county adding, as I mentioned, that 1% that they added is to go to the County Housing Trust Fund. And I think that's something that we all want. I know as we struggle for workforce housing and affordable housing, that is something that makes sense. If you do decide you want to, after all of this, go through and do impose your own occupancy tax, I would encourage you to put it towards supporting things that assist the people who are paying it. So if you wanted to do something like a shuttle service from the train station to your Fishkill hotels, if you wanted to invest in other infrastructure and other support and other marketing dollars and other things that support the visitor economy while also supporting residents, because they use that transportation too, that would be a fair use of that dollar money from our standpoint. So thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
That's
Anybody else?
great feedback, thank you.
Sir?
With all due respect, I take issue with one of the gentlemen up here saying that 300 out of 300 town residents would go with your proposal when town residents got up here tonight and specifically said they wouldn't go with your proposal. That means you didn't listen to the people that got up here at the podium and spoke to you. And that means you're not listening to your constituents. And that is disrespectful this way, while so many people got up here and showed you respect the other way. And that is unfair. That being said, Fishkill, a lot of the people up here said Fishkill should be doing this because other towns and other municipalities are doing this. What are you guys putting congestion pricing in? Because you guys are very against New York City doing that, but at the same time, one of the biggest things was Beacon just put in this. We go to Rochester, they do this. Poughkeepsie does this. If you're going to look and say what other towns do is what we should do, then when other towns do it, don't be upset with it. When New York City does congestion pricing, don't be against it. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you are a town of innovation, and that's what you're looking to do, then it should be looked at as its own kind of set of morals. Is this right for Fishkill? Is this what we should do? Forget what Rochester does. If the people from Fishkill want to go to Rochester and they want to spend that tax, great. And if they decide to go somewhere that's less expensive and that tax is their deciding factor, also great for the people of Fishkill. But is what Rochester does what is right for Fishkill? Does that make sense? I don't know that it necessarily does. I think that as a town and as a board, we shouldn't be looking at what everybody else does and goes, hey, that's a great idea, we should do it too. Especially when we're looking at Beacon or some of these other municipalities that have done this recently, and without looking to see what their results are. If we turned around and said, hey, we looked at what Beacon's results were, and their occupancy is higher than before, they're doing great, maybe that's a conversation to be had. But if we're gonna say, oh, well, Beacon just put this into effect, what if a year from now their occupancy rates are down 30%? Like, if that was to happen to Fishkill, would that mean a hotel or two closing? Would we have what's happening on the south side of 84 with those vacant places now creeping up north on 9? Is that a good idea? I mean, before we just turn around and say, hey, because the state government needs this by March, we should make a rash decision and not necessarily look at all the factors, I think that's a bad move. I'd rather wait a year and see where these other municipalities are in making a decision. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you live in Fishkill?
I do not live in Fishkill. However, I own a business in Fishkill, and I am on the Fishkill Business Association board.
Thank you, sir.
Move to Fishkill so you can run.
My sister does live in Fishkill.
We want you to move to Fishkill so you can run. I'm sure there's a room for rent somewhere.
He
if
can
you
use
do
he
that.
can use his sister's address.
Yes, that's what I was going to say that. There's a room for rent somewhere. Throw some clothes down. Get on the board. So there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to say here. I agree with everything that he just said. I think I touched upon a little bit of what he said earlier, but it's a little... It's kind of funny to listen to Brian say he knocked on all the doors and everybody wants it to offset taxes. Why didn't you say at the first meeting when you came into office? What took a couple of months for you to have this?
We didn't push it. I pushed it.
Then-
I brought it up.
Then why wasn't it pushed then? So what is the push now?
The push now are expenses coming up.
Yeah.
And the push now and the desire now is to finally get it done.
Okay, all right, let me finish the rest of that. So, I know that, actually, I take that back. I know that you wanted it. I don't know if everybody that you asked wanted it, because where does it say anywhere that this is gonna offset taxes? It's where? It's gonna go back into the general fund. If it's gonna offset taxes, put it in a special fund that's called offsetting taxes fund, because we don't trust any of you to put it back into the general fund, because you're gonna spend it on yourself, on another statue, and no, I'm not a Scrooge, because I don't like the $100,000 on a statue. I like to be fiscally responsible. Yeah, no, well, give me yeah. So, Brian, I hear you. I know that you've always been interested in it. I have thought about it in the past, but I've come around full circle because I hear what people say. And you can't see it at home, but there's a good 10 people that were sitting here behind me over my shoulder, business owners, business operators, people who give us revenue for our town, and the gentleman's right. You're not listening. So I think Councilmember Bardini's listening, but the other 3 members who want to push it through, you're not listening. So to say that you think everybody is in agreement with it is a false statement. And the other part about it, let's see. I think I already touched upon what my things were on it. It's just, it's another tax. If you want to do it to offset taxes, then stop spending the money and be more fiscally responsible. But it doesn't appear that you're going to do that. Like I said, I don't believe that you're going to offset taxes with it if it goes through. So it's a bad idea. Just like the ward system is a very bad idea. I'm surprised to hear Councilmember Foreman say that he would actually put that up for a vote to be on a special election. I'm surprised, because I would think that you would think like Councilmember Rye, it's a really bad idea. It's bad. Why do we have to waste money?
I don't think it's a good idea, but if the voters want to vote for it and they think it's a good idea, then we change it to a ward system. I just don't agree with Ozzy thinking we should do it August 10th. We should either do it in June or in November.
June is fine. I could do June.
Okay.
Well, that's primary day. That's primary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so wait, I'm gonna go back to what I just said. So, yeah. Oh my God. All right, so Councilmember Rye, I am with you 100% on this one, because it's not a good idea. It really isn't. Are you done talking to Supervisor? You're good?
Yeah, we're talking
Okay.
business. We're going to do it on June, so you save the taxpayers money.
Oh, you're not going to save taxpayers' money because it's going to cost $10,000 or $20,000 to do it to begin with. So
What
how are you
was that?
saving any money? You shouldn't do it. It doesn't matter. Okay, tell me you're done. You done? Are you done?
I was explaining something to him.
And I need to be clear. Can I be clear?
Yes, please, yes.
So, I don't want to do it, but there is a side, and this is, people are going to ridicule me, there's a side of Ozzy's argument, that does make sense. And I just know that we've had a form of government that's been working for us for a long time. We've got to take our time here and not jump into doing this. People need to be educated, and I like what Greg said, let's make sure we get information, mail it out, everything else, and have a full discussion about this, because it's a big deal.
It is, I agree with you.
So
It is a big
tax
deal.
law, we're jumping into that one.
That's good. Primary day is perfect.
Yeah, so, no, June is not perfect.
June is a primary day. It's a perfect
June
day
is
to
when
do it.
people graduate and go on vacation with their families. And June is pretty much when you have votes, I don't know, like a library vote, where nobody goes to. So just call up 50 of your friends and family, and they'll go vote, and you'll get what you want, which is not the way it's supposed to work.
I'd like it if it's going to happen in November.
I don't want it to happen at all, but if it was going to happen, I would say it should happen with an election. But it shouldn't happen, because it's going to cost the taxpayers money for it to happen, and all because the supervisor thinks of a hypothetical situation. Hypothetically, the nonprofits are going to come and take over our town. Hypothetically.
I mean,
amazing.
What?
Councilwoman,
It's
respectfully, the objections to an occupancy tax are also hypothetical. So you're making counter-pointed arguments, one against something based on a hypothetical situation raised by the supervisor, but you're also opposing something else based on hypothetical arguments made by business owners, when in the research that we've done, none of the municipalities that have an occupancy tax enacted have suffered any appreciable statistical
Okay.
economic harm from it.
So, let me go back, because I'm going to forget what he said. He said hypothetically, that is why he wanted to do it, because if the nonprofits come and take over our town, that's what he said. What these people are talking about doesn't appear to be hypothetical. They have some facts that they're backing it up with. And again, why tax? I believe, Councilmember Bardini, welcome back. Thank you for your normal thought process. It's not necessary to do a tax. And hypothetically, if we spend $20,000 for a ward system and it gets voted down, we just spend $20,000 and the town is fine. Again, like if there was a board of, when I was on the board, I was the only member that lived on the east side of town. So that means the other board members would have been running against each other. So you want to add 2 more seats and try and get 2 more people. It's hard enough to get people to run on the board as it is, because nobody wants to join the chaos. So now we're going to have 2 more people, which is $30,000 a year in perpetuity, which is more money. So it doesn't need to happen. But this is where the camera doesn't turn around and see your supervisor leaning back, thinking like you know what's right. So sadly,
I do know what's right. I know we need to protect the residents of the town of Fishkill from a hostile takeover, period.
well, it didn't happen so far, did it, Supervisor? The Jehovah's have been here since Bob Lacola let them not
Yep.
pay taxes.
Yes.
And thankfully, our town is still okay.
And
You
the
know,
Jehovah's
no hostile
Witnesses-
takeover yet.
And the Jehovah's Witnesses do not engage in politics, to their credit.
Thank you. I'm glad they don't. So again, hypothetical, Greg, what I'm saying is not hypothetical. I listened to what the business owners said, and I don't think it's hypothetical, but if you don't want to listen to them, then
We're going to put it up for a vote and let the residents decide what they want to do.
for the tax?
No, for the award system. I think there's two things. We have to vote to create an award system, and then the second vote will be to go from 4 to 6 board members. So that'll be up to the residents of the town of Fishkill. I don't see what the harm of asking the residents for that.
What is going to be the harm when you can't find those people? So then what happens?
I don't know. We have to determine. Maybe they get appointed to the board. Who knows? This is probably going to take 10 election cycles before we figure this out.
Wait. Whoa. All right, that was a lot to digest, what you just said. So you just said, so we're going to make a ward system, which will break up our town into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections on the supervisor. But if you can't find somebody to fill one of the sections, potentially you could appoint someone.
Yes.
That sounds like a different avenue of why it's being done.
No.
Who is going to make the sections? Who's going to draw up?
That's
Did
a
you just
good
say Jesus
question.
Christ?
Yes.
Hold on a second.
That's a good question.
Yes.
Jesus Christ is not involved in our politics in town hall, thankfully. But we are all taxpayers who are involved. So, yeah, it's kind of hard, again, cameras turn around so we can see the supervisor and his reactions to a taxpayer actually voicing their opinion on it. It is unnecessary, and it raises more questions. Who's going to make that line? What will happen if you can't find somebody in a certain place? What if you have 2 really good people and they both live in the same district? It's not necessary. But as usual, you guys, I wish you would come together and say no. Just say no, because if 3 of you say no, then he won't be able to do it. But sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. Let's see, what's the rest?
It's our job to protect the citizens of the town of Fishkill.
And it should also be noted that changing the board from 5 to 7 reduces the individual voting influence of one board member.
Correct.
So we would be taking power away from ourselves to an extent.
You would probably be giving power to whoever it is that you want to be on the board, because if there's not people in those areas, he just said you can appoint people.
We don't know what the procedure would be. The town attorney, in describing all of that, would need to consult on the legal process and advise.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with the way it's happening now. Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We don't need to waste taxpayer money on trying to worry about what hypothetically will happen when our town is taken over by the nonprofits, because they haven't so far. Let's see, last thing. And if you do the hotel tax, I agreed with what the other lady said. The 250th anniversary is coming, or I think it was a gentleman. We want all those people to stay here. You may not think it's going to make a difference, but it might make a difference. So instead of having a nice rate for people to come when you have all the celebrations, they might be going somewhere else. Onto a different matter. I see that you're hiring CPL on the agenda. Didn't we hire a different engineering firm at the last meeting?
We've hired multiple engineers throughout the years, including when you were on the board.
Right, when we hired a different engineer, it was because they were substitute engineers.
That's
So
CPL.
who is our town engineer?
MJ, right up the street. They're going to be our primary engineer.
I don't think that's what it said on this resolution. On this resolution, it said that they're going to be the engineer, the town engineer.
We have
The
multiple town engineers.
CPL, right?
This
The
is- I'm talking about
CPL
CPL.
is to continue some of the work that's
Correct.
already in process, like with the planning board and have you, so we don't have to have somebody come in and catch up. So we're going to let them finish, I think, the projects that they're working on, and then phase in.
Thank you for explaining that, Councilmember Bardini.
You're welcome.
Although I don't see that that was on the resolution. On the resolution, it sounded like we were hiring them for a whole year.
Is MJ going to be on the planning board? Yeah, just so you know.
Yeah, just to clarify,
And
because
next
we
year
didn't,
CPL will be on there again, and it's good to have a couple engineers on there.
okay. So I just want to know who our town engineer was. So you're saying it's the new person, and the CPL will finish out whatever projects they have and be hired. I think I read the paragraph where it says they have to be approved by you, or
Sorry?
approved by the board if they're doing something different, CPL, if they're gonna not, if they're gonna spend money. You had the contract worded differently than it was last year. So I just didn't know what was going on with it, and I wanted to know who the engineer was and what CPL was actually gonna do. I think that was it. Special elections. Okay. I just hope everybody does the right thing and listens to the residents and not always to the supervisor.
Hi again. So Councilperson Foreman, I'm going to call you out on a conversation we had 6 months ago where you told me you guys were contemplating doing an increase in the tax for the hotels. And you said it would be 2%. And you know, that wasn't such a hard pill to swallow, 2%. I've been a manager for 18 years in Fishkill. There hasn't been a tax increase. But to go from 12.25% to 18.25%, I think is a lot. So now, I'm just trying to understand how this works. So AJ and Rob will carry your bill to, I see you all look up when I say that, will carry your bill to Albany, and then it comes back. Is there a time, is it definitely the 5%, or can we negotiate on that? I
I'll
mean,
answer
are
that.
you gonna
Yeah,
have
I'm
a
not-
conversation? And I can tell you before, I'm sorry,
Go.
Councilperson Foreman, before you speak, I can tell you exactly what you said. I remember it exactly. We sat on the couch at the Hyatt, and you were talking about a gift card at Shelton, Connecticut, and you said, Judy, how do you feel about a 2% increase in tax? And now all of a sudden it's 5%. I just want to also make mention that to stay at a hotel in Disney in Orlando, you pay 12.5% tax, and we're going to 18.25%. I just want you just to think about that for a minute. If we had Disney and there was some sort of draw, I mean, by all means, but I just think that's 5% is huge. I mean, for a hotel my size, you're talking probably $325,000 a year for you. I don't know if that goes back to the Fishkill taxpayer. I would love, you know, that to happen. If that's what's going to happen, okay, let's talk about that. I think that that would be fair if you went back, if it went back to the pockets of the Fishkill residents. But are any of you willing to say that's going to happen? Definitely. All of that money is going to be dedicated, that 5%, to the Fishkill taxpayers, to the residents of this town?
I'm interested.
Brian?
I'm very interested in that happening. As far as the Disney,
Yeah.
it seems as though Disney has a special legislative relationship with the state of Florida, and so as far as the taxing that you're quoting them and what they can do by themselves are two different things. I don't believe that the state of Florida has the governance over Disney itself. I think that's though it sounds great.
Yes.
You know, it's a reasonable thing to say.
But it's a
I think there's a major legislative decoupling there, so it's no wonder that they're a little lower than the amount that you're saying.
Yeah,
So there's just some background to that, so.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, you know, Disney and Universal and SeaWorld, that's the draw. That's what brings the visitors there. If we had that big draw, then okay. I mean,
Just out of curiosity, not
Go ahead.
in any way being confrontational.
Please, sir.
Well, what does I-84 do for us in the way of business?
Well, I
Doesn't
think
that
it's-
generate a just sort of built-in potential client that is coming from the Northeast and all the way through? Don't
I
they
think it's just a
stop here
thoroughfare
and, you know?
from Pennsylvania to Connecticut. That's what I think of I-84.
Uh-huh.
I think once you get off I-84 and you enter into Fishkill,
Yeah.
I think that area could be helped a little
Pennsylvania
bit
to
with
Connecticut,
that Ramada,
I think
but
there are a
we'll
lot
talk
of
about
people
that.
going from further northeast out west, and I think that this, from what my research so far indicates, that this is a point at which a lot of drivers stop.
I mean, I can't understand why there would be 13 different hotel establishments in a single town if the infrastructure,
Okay,
well,
so
as you're
I
pointing
can-
out,
I
we
can
don't
tell you
have any
exactly why.
immediate
So when I
major
first
draws like a
started-
Disney.
100%, and I can tell you exactly why there's 13 different hotels. 18 and a half years ago, when I started at the Hyatt, IBM alone gave us 10,000 rooms. 10,000 rooms a year, just to the Hyatt. Just to the Hyatt. Can you imagine that amount of rooms from IBM? You know how much they gave us last year? 240 room nights.
But why did they keep coming here? Why are they still building hotels here? Why throughout the years
So
are
I
there
think the
more and more
leisure-
and more and more hotels right here in Fishkill? Why?
So there hasn't
Why are
been a
there
new-
3 more coming?
So there hasn't been a new hotel in 8 years. That was the Residence Inn and the Spring Hill. So they are talking about a Home 2 Suites. I think it still has to go to the planning board, am I correct? It's in the planning board now.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other 2.
Continental Commons is going to be putting something up eventually, and then you've got
Wasn't the Continental Commons having an issue with the land there?
property that was just sold.
That has been finalized through our
Oh, that
planning
has,
board already.
okay.
They haven't submitted a performance bond.
There's another new one potentially coming, not right here in this geographic location, but close by.
Okay, so my question is, I talked to a lot of my counterparts up in Poughkeepsie. They did have an increase, which I think they're doing in 2026, and I think it's between 2 and 3%. So I'm just asking you to reconsider the 5%. I know I talked to Foreman, and he had said that, is it true legislators want
The state senators and the state assembly don't like to vote on these taxes all the time.
That's their job.
Yeah, but they don't like to do it.
That is their job.
I'm just telling you what they're telling me.
I know they don't like to. I don't like to do a lot of things
Right.
too, but I have a job to do.
But if we want something from them, we have to listen to them.
So,
We have to
and
comply with
so
their
if you
timeline.
go up, if they carry your bill and you go up with 5%, that 5% will stand. You won't go to 2 or 3%, is what you're saying. I'm just trying to understand.
No, what I'm saying is, if we said, you know what, let's go 2%.
Yeah,
And everybody's in for it, and we get 2%, and then 6 years later, you know what, we need another 2%. Hey, state senator, state assembly, can you help us out? They don't want to do this again.
so I understand, no,
They want to do it once?
100%,
I don't want to hear from you
Councilperson, I
anymore.
understand. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Could you go for the 5 and do it over a 6-year time period? Could you do that? Like how we're increasing salary wages in New York, right? We go to $15 this year, next year it's $16.10, the year after it's $16.75. Could you do it over a time frame so it's not such a huge hit all at once? I think that's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. It's a little bit more reasonable.
My guess is going to be no, but I'm going to ask AJ tomorrow.
We
And
have to
find out what he
submit
has to say.
We have to submit the paperwork to them, and they will then carry the legislation. So we do have the ability to clarify with them as to the exact particulars.
No,
So-
but I think Judy's asking,
Incremental.
let's get the legislation done.
Right.
But give me 1%, 2 years later, another percent, 2 years, I think every time you ask for a higher amount, you have to have a new resolution.
You do.
Yeah,
Well, that's what she's asking.
right.
So it's not incremental.
Well,
I
is it-
don't think you can do anything.
Well, could we do something that would enable us to impose a room occupancy tax of up to 5%, and then the town would have leeway to determine on its own?
That's an AJ question.
That would be an AJ question, so we can find out about that at the very least.
Okay. Okay.
Like if we were to start
All I can tell you
hypothetically at
is,
2% and then
Yes.
increase to 3 to 4 to 5 over a 4 or 5 year period.
Correct.
We can find out at the very least if that would be feasible under the legislative process. That's something we can certainly inquire about.
I think it's feasible. I don't think the members like it.
We'll find
Why
out.
would you want to do this all the time?
Well, no, I think that what we're.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can find it if we can handle that process through one bill.
Absolutely.
That would be the most agreeable way to do it.
You might
So
know
that-
somebody.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
thank you. Last call? Sure.
I just want to verify. Tonight, you're only voting on, you're only voting that the New York State Legislature will let you create a home rule request. Is that what the resolution is?
I don't support it, so I really haven't,
Oh,
I'm
is
a no.
that, I believe that's what the resolution is, because you don't have anything to put forth yet.
Right.
So I think the answer to her question is you haven't gotten to that point yet. So you're.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
Yeah, you're only tonight voting on the fact that you want to forward it to the New York State Legislature to create a home
Putting them on
rule.
notice,
To
yes.
give you the opportunity to create the tax if you want to create the tax. So
Exactly.
I don't think that they've gotten to the nitty gritty yet, even though it sounds like they did in their heads. They're just not telling anybody yet. So that's what I just wanted to clarify for her. So when it goes to them and they say yes and it comes back to us, so then you have the lawyer write up whatever it is you want to do, but it doesn't go back up to them to vote. It's you that votes on it. Is that correct?
We vote on it now, and we,
No. You know
The
what I'm
state
saying.
senate and state assembly both still have to vote for it, and then, which
The
gets
second
done
part.
by the end of June.
So that's the second.
And then
part.
Governor Hochul has to sign it by the end of the year.
Okay, so
It would
it's a
start
three-part.
January 1.
So the first part is that you get the New York
Home
State
rule
Legislature
request.
to get the home rule request. Then you create what you want.
Yes.
And then you all, 3 of you probably, agree to move it to the next step, which would be having them agree to what you created, and then the third step is for it to go up to the governor for her to approve it, is that correct?
State Senate, State Assembly, vote for it by the end of June.
Okay, all right. I just wasn't
Usually the
sure.
last week of June.
Yeah, that was it. So, and again, I just wanted to know if you do the reward system, like how it's gonna be broken down, because I don't think it's a good idea. And this money, if you said like Brian, it was gonna be used for tax, to not make the taxes go up, it should be definitively stated where that money's gonna go. I'm just repeating myself, but I think they're important questions that need to be stated. Thanks.
Mr. Malarosa?
Do you want to draw the map?
Yes.
DOE draws the map.
I know we.
It's a planning board, he knows how to draw maps.
So I know we closed the thing on the accessory apartment thing, but I just wanted to know something. Is that something that will be regulated with permits and stuff like that?
You have to get a permit to build it, yep.
So
fire,
I'm just wondering,
smoke detectors,
are we
all
going
that
to be able
stuff.
to handle that, you think, with code and stuff like that? All right.
Well,
Kinda-
I doubt there's going to be a flood of those things, but it is code in every regard.
And
They've got to get a CO, the whole deal.
What happens for people who've had, possibly not?
Say it, I'm sorry.
What happens to the people who have had probably illegal?
Hopefully they make them legal.
Okay, all right.
And you gotta remember, there's requirements like, there has to be a separate entrance, you have to have smoke detectors.
Oh, yeah, I know.
There was a big fire in Clinton maybe 4 or 5 months ago where a bunch of kids died, and because there was no smoke detector, it was an A, B, and B. So if you want to build an apartment, you're gonna have to get a permit, you're gonna have to get it inspected. And there's quite a few people that have nice pieces of land where they can put a little 1,000 square foot place in their backyard, and they can benefit from that, and they can stay and afford to live in the town of Fishkill.
And quick thing, again, because I'm on the planning board and seeing about hotels and hearing that the occupancy rate are not as great as they're supposed to be. More hotels is diluting the occupancy to a point?
I don't know. I don't support the hotel tax, so I'm just a no.
Wondering. Just wondering.
Anybody else? Ms. LaGoy?
So I just wanted to bring up a couple of points. So the property maintenance law, which I would be a proponent of, 2 properties, though, were specifically mentioned, but the single most mentioned property in the comprehensive plan update survey is not mentioned: the blight of Fishkill for decades. So, that just absolutely puzzles me, how the boards are still up on the building, so there can't be anything done. My God, there's people living in those buildings, so, enough with the excuses, like either find this guy, you'd get it cleaned up in a heartbeat, or a group of people, whoever own that. Also included on the agenda is the mobile home park annual permit. I think I'm paraphrasing, I'm not sure if that's exactly what it's called. I think that both of these topics miss the opportunity to include one of the objectives of the comprehensive plan update, which is to examine provisions of the town code to see whether updates are needed about the safe and humane keeping and caring of animals. I can tell you firsthand that in both of these 2 of the 3 locations, I can specifically tell you firsthand, they are a dumping ground for animals, and it seems like because they're cats, nobody gives a hoot. And I will share a story with you that a cat that I picked up from one of these locations, it is believed by our veterinarian, was thrown from a window because his chin was degloved down to his neck. And it happened that I caught this cat because I was there looking for another cat on this site. So, suddenly the idea of the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee fell out of favor with the supervisor directly after the election for some reason. I want to know what the board, it's been 2 years since this has been passed, this comprehensive plan update. And I'm not seeing, of the 13 goals that are mentioned in this comprehensive plan update, I'm not seeing a whole lot of comprehensive work being done. So, you know, I'm a little bit troubled by that. And, you know, again, since the supervisor is disinterested in actually getting true feedback from a committee of citizens that are interested in seeing the comprehensive plan followed through, you don't need chairpersons, you don't need a whole elaborate setup, but you have an opportunity specifically for the 20-something people that worked for nearly 2 years to get the comprehensive plan established. You have an opportunity to actually look for citizens to participate in following through with that plan. So one of the things that it will be my goal this year to remind the town of Fishkill board about these animals that we deal with in this town. I'm not making it up. I'm not making up stories. We find cats that have been shot. We find cats that are starving, that are freezing to death. And a lot of that can be avoided by working collaboratively with property owners, hotels, businesses, residents. So that's going to be my goal this year, is to remind you of the animals that the town residents are interested in providing a better environment for. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, that closes that. Thank you, everybody, for speaking. My commitment to open government is clear to everybody to see. Let's go. This is the, go to any other town, they have a 3-minute limit that you can speak. You get to speak here twice as long as you want, no matter what you say, whether it's true or false. That's pretty good. Next up is consent agenda.
Which has been amended.
Yeah, as amended. Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is resolution number 1, resolution authorizing extension of submission of a home rule request allowing the town of Fishkill to impose a room occupancy tax. I'd like to make an amendment on this, where it says, now therefore be resolved, the town board does authorize the town supervisor to complete and submit to the New York State Legislature. I'd like to change the town supervisor or his designee.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry.
On the resolution, it says, now therefore be resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the town supervisor to complete and submit to the New York State Legislature a home rule. I just want to change town supervisor to or his designee.
I just want to be perfectly clear. This just keeps you away from signing on to this?
If I don't, listen,
I'm just not, I know, I just want to hear it.
One of the things,
just want to make sure.
One of the things that really, it's my 6th year as supervisor, one of the things that really upsets me is every year I have to sign the bond anticipation note for $1.7 million that was passed by Councilman Foreman, Councilman Ryan, former Councilwoman Louise Daniele, and I voted no for it. So, well, you want to give Carmine up? Give him up.
Give him up.
I'm not.
You voted for it.
Well, I didn't vote for it. It's a bad idea. The village residents are going to see the impact on that in a few days. I'm not signing anything that I'm not voting for, period, going forward. So, or his designee, that's what's going to happen if I don't want something.
You want the money though, right? You'll accept the revenue that comes in, right, and spend it?
I'm going to do what's best for the residents of the town of Fishkill.
Yeah, okay.
It should be noted from a language standpoint that usually, when I was preparing resolutions, I would indicate the town supervisor or his designee be and are hereby authorized to take any actions necessary.
I just wanted to make sure I knew where that was going.
Yeah, that has been the language we generally use. It gives the supervisor that flexibility. I don't begrudge him that.
And I believe also on the forms, it says that the supervisor doesn't have to sign it on the paperwork. There's 2 provisions that can get done that way. So make a motion to amend it to say the town supervisor or his designee. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Wait, we're going to roll call vote on amending the...
Amend it?
Does anyone have any
Voting on
objection to amending the
amending.
resolution?
No.
I'm not going to vote for it.
All in favor?
No, Brian said it's not
Do a
voting.
roll call.
I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
I'll start
sorry.
over again.
So we're voting to
We're
amend.
voting to amend the language.
Amend the resolution to impose a room occupancy tax, where it says town supervisor to submit to the New York State Legislature, to town supervisor or his designee.
We're adding or his designee.
Or his designee.
That's what we're adding.
Yes.
So we're just voting on the language?
The language.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
You can get the deputy
I'll present
supervisor or
that,
somebody.
I'll present that as a motion.
I second it.
Second it, roll call vote.
Aye.
Councilmember Bardini?
Aye.
Councilmember Chicino?
Aye.
Councilmember Rye?
No.
Councilmember Foreman?
Yes.
Supervisor Albert?
Yes. All right, that's done.
Passes 4-1.
There's a resolution. Read it, ask for a second.
Resolution authorizing the town of Fishkill to impose a room occupancy tax, resolution ID number 9807. Whereas the town of Fishkill Town Board wishes to impose a local room occupancy tax on hotel and motel occupancies and short-term rentals. And whereas in order to impose such a tax, it is necessary for the New York State Legislature to enact special legislation authorizing the town to do so. And whereas for the said resolution, or the said legislation to be enacted, it is necessary for the town of Fishkill to complete and submit a home rule request. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does authorize the town supervisor or his designee to complete and submit to the New York State Legislature a home rule request for enactment of special legislation authorizing the town of Fishkill to impose a room occupancy tax.
Present it as a motion.
I present that as a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Bardini?
No.
Councilmember Chicino?
Aye.
Councilmember Rye?
Yes.
Councilmember Foreman?
Yes.
Supervisor Albert?
No.
3-2, passes.
Okay. Next up is a resolution objecting to the congestion pricing in New York City, ID number 816. Whereas effective January of 2025, congestion price and tolls will be charged in New York City on vehicles traveling in the central business district of Manhattan, and whereas the proceeds of the tolls are intended to be used by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority for long-term transportation initiatives in New York City, and whereas many residents of the town of Fishkill commute to the central business district in Manhattan, and whereas the imposition of the congestion pricing tolls will have harmful economic impacts on commuters from Fishkill, now therefore be resolved, and one, the town board protests the imposition of congestion pricing tolls and calls upon the governor to take the steps to have the congestion pricing tolls repealed, and two, the town board suggests in lieu of congestion pricing that tolls a forensic audit be performed of the entirety of the transit system to find financial savings, and three, a certified copy of this resolution and a letter communicating the town's request to repeal the congestion prices shall be sent to Governor Kathy Hochul. Present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes? Okay, 5-0. Okay, we'll
Yes.
look at that tomorrow. All right, so now we're on to items for special consideration. We have two quick ones. Discussion of resolution to appoint Natalie Hayden as part-time recreation assistant. Anybody have any discussion on that? Go right to the resolution?
Move to resolution.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
All right, whereas the town board has received a memorandum from the Recreation Director, Jason Maeda, requesting the town board appoint an additional part-time recreational assistant, Natalie Hayden, to work for the Recreation Department, whereas funding of this request is included in the 2025 adopted budget. Now therefore it be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1, all these whereas paragraphs incorporated herein by reference set forth in full. Section 2, the town board hereby appoint Natalie Hayden as part-time employee in the Recreation Department and attach hereto to seasonal terms at a rate of pay as attached, with such employment conditional upon completion of any and all requested pre-employment screenings and the approval of Dutchess County Human Resources. Number 3, Section 3, the town supervisor or his designee are hereby directed to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
But before we vote, a note for the town clerk. Section 1, under the resolves, there is a typographical error. It should be herein, not herein.
Hereon, okay. It's H-E-R-O-N, you're correct.
Yeah, H-E-R-E-I-N.
Next up is the resolution approving the Fishkill 2025 cat and spray, cats, I'm sorry?
We're doing that.
We did not yet vote on.
Okay.
It was moved and seconded, but we didn't vote.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, resolution approving town of Fishkill 2025 cat spray and neuter contract, ID 9821, whereas the town board of the town of Fishkill has before the proposed contract with Animal Rights Alliance, Inc. for provision of spay and neuter for service of cats, whereas said services for the town's 2025 cat spay neuter program to the extent of $500, whereas the town board wishes to approve said contract, now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board does hereby approve the proposed contract with the Animal Rights Alliance, Inc. for provisions of spay and neuter for service for cats, and the town supervisor, section 3, the town supervisor is authorized to execute the said contract and any documents necessary to carry out the terms thereof are presented as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. A note again to the
I see it.
town clerk, it is spay and neuter, not spray and neuter.
Next up, that's done. New and old business. Jackie, anything new?
Not tonight.
Greg?
No, not tonight.
John?
Nope.
Brian?
Nope.
I got one lady that had a water bill issue. She was away and her basement flooded. The bill was quite a bit over almost $1,100. I'd like to know if we can cut $300 from that bill. You guys okay with me doing a resolution for that next meeting? She wasn't in town, so she wasn't able to stop the water.
I don't understand.
Her water bill.
Her water bill. So it's like $1,100, so I'd like to waive $300 and a penalty. So it'd be about, she'll still pay an additional $500.
I mean, is this?
She's never asked me for anything before, just as regular
Is
citizen.
this a financial hardship thing? Or
Yeah.
what are we talking about? You can attest to that?
I don't know, I didn't go to her house, so I can't tell you that.
Well, I'm a little mixed on it. Of course, I'd like to help, but I mean.
John, you okay with it?
I mean, do we know if it's a hardship?
I know she wasn't there.
But, I mean, it happened in my house, I'd be having to pay for it, so I don't understand. Is this, let me ask you this, is this common, do we do this a lot? Because I haven't really come across this.
I don't think we've done this more than twice a year.
Yeah, I know.
We've done it before. And I usually don't bring this stuff up.
I'll leave it to your discretion.
John?
I mean, yes.
Okay. You? Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, guys. That's all I have for new and old business. Next town board meeting is what, February 5th?
Yes.
There's no executive session. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
God bless America. Talk to you later.
All right.